He looked at everyone, a surge of heroic spirit rising in his heart, and spoke solemnly. Good, since everyone is not afraid, let's stay here together. No matter how many people the hive camp sends, if they want to take the iron mine, they must step over our corpses. Everyone nodded heavily upon hearing this, their expressions growing more resolute. Returning from the Jing Valley to the Station Valley required passing through the Arrow Bamboo Forest. Going there and back would take about an hour. Considering Li Yuankun and the other two were dragging two wounded, this time might need to be extended. Standing outside the mine, Yue Feng glanced at the sky, roughly calculating before saying to everyone, "It's about half an hour to daylight. Lord Minister leading people over would have to wait until nightfall. Let's prepare and spend the day in the mine." Upon hearing this, everyone relaxed considerably. Indeed, daybreak wasn't far. Li Yuankun going back to report would take over half an hour, and by the time Xia Chuan knew, it would already be daylight. Leading people over would definitely be a matter for after nightfall. Although the exact location of the hive station wasn't known, it certainly had some distance from the Jing Valley. Similarly, if Lu Sheng brought people over, it would also be after nightfall. They could sleep through this day with peace of mind. Soon everyone lit a coal fire in the mine, sealed the mine at first light, and began resting inside. You two take a group, each group guards for half an hour. I'll take the last half hour. Quickly rest and sleep, there shouldn't be any issues during the day. Though it's unlikely anything would happen during the day, Yue Feng still arranged for patrols. The day was only 4 hours long. 7 groups guarded for 3.5 hours, and he himself guarded the last half hour, making the time distribution just right. The strength of Great Xia had indeed changed dramatically, and everyone's lives had improved significantly, yet some fundamental things remained unchanged. Throughout the camp, besides the leader Xia Hong, no one else could operate during the daytime, and they could only live a life of nighttime activity and daytime rest. Someday, when I break through to cold resistance level, I can be like the leader and see the ice abyss world during the day. With these thoughts, Yue Feng closed his eyes, reminiscing about how Xia Hong could now unabashedly appear in the sunlight, filled with envy and yearning. "Captain, it's almost night." He didn't know how long he had slept, but Yue Feng was woken up by someone. Through the small opening left in the mine, he saw that the outside was dim, realizing it was almost dark. He hurriedly got up, signaling for the last group to sleep while he began his guard duty at the entrance. The thumb-thick small opening let in a continuous flow of cold air. Although the cave was warmed by coal fire, Yue Feng couldn't help but shiver when he touched the condensed solid cold air. If just the cold air is so terrifying, what if exposed to that cold light? Yue Feng shook his head slightly, withdrawing his fingers, continuing to monitor the outside through the small opening while quietly awaiting nightfall. Creak, creak, and creak. Yue Feng thought he could smoothly wait for nightfall. However, just as day and night were about to exchange places, a series of heavy footsteps suddenly reached his ears. The Mirror Immortal station had been unoccupied for a long time, and usually there were no cold beasts here in the valley floor. The snow accumulated on the ground made the footsteps exceptionally clear. Upon hearing the sounds, he didn't wake others but first observed the outside through the small hole. Upon seeing it, Yue Feng's pupils abruptly contracted. A white figure braving the dim twilight was steadily approaching the mine. Though his pace was slow, his target was unmistakable. Clearly, the other party had detected someone in the mine. "Get up, someone is coming, everyone get up." Seeing the figure only 10 meters away, knowing it was heading for them, Yue Feng decisively shouted to wake the others. The 14 people instantly sprang awake, without a moment's hesitation, grabbing their weapons and quickly knocking arrows, aiming at the entrance. After all, they were people who hunted outside frequently, and even when sleeping, they had to remain vigilant. Although their reaction was timely, upon noticing that it wasn't entirely dark outside and linking it to Yue Feng's earlier statement that someone was coming, their faces immediately darkened. Someone comes during the day, basking in the cold light. The answer was obvious. The one coming was a cold resistance level expert. Bang! With a loud bang, the tree branches blocking the entrance scattered. As the figure at the entrance grew clearer, including Yue Feng, everyone's hearts hung by a thread. "Are you people from the Daxia camp?" With a kick from the newcomer, the entrance was shoved open, letting in a flood of cold light. Yue Feng had to lead people into the depths of the mine. The newcomer was middle-aged, with prominent features and a brow exuding dominance. His appearance matched the uncompromising tone when he spoke. He was very burly, not dressed in beast skin but seemingly in cotton cloth, which fitted well, exposing his knotted muscles all over and conveying a strong sense of oppression. Despite knowing the other person was not someone he could provoke, Yue Feng gritted his teeth, stepped forward and clasped his fists. Yue Feng of the great Xia Mountain River team, greetings to Senior. May I ask if Senior is from the hive camp? Him? The middle-aged man's brows furrowed, letting out a cold snort, and casually flicked his hand at Yue Feng. Whoosh! A thumbnail-sized pebble flew from his hand, directly piercing through Yue Feng's right ear. Yue Feng's pupils contracted, touching the blood flowing from his earlobe. Despite the anger welling in his heart, he could only stand silently as the opponent had shown mercy. Otherwise, piercing through the ear or even the head would have been easy. I'm in a good mood today, seeing you're not too old. I'll teach you how to speak properly. You have no right to question me. Whatever I ask, you answer honestly, understood? Even though his anger kept rising, Yue Feng looked at the sky outside, still holding his fists tightly under his sleeves, responding in a deep voice. Then, what would Senior like to ask? Chapter 379. Chapter 188. Venting, drawing lines, preparing. What happened at the Mirror Immortal camp? Just a moment ago, it was only suspicion, but hearing this question, Yue Feng could conclude that the middle-aged man in front of him was undoubtedly a high-ranking member of the hive camp. Lu Sheng must have relayed my words back last night. This person came personally to confirm, clearly not believing that the Mirror Immortal had merged into Great Xia. Of course, the most important purpose was definitely to seize the iron mine. Yue Feng looked at the sky outside the cave, his eyes flickering slightly, assumed a thoughtful demeanor, and stayed silent for over 10 breaths without speaking. Don't think about stalling for time. No one coming will help. This iron mine has already become part of our hive camp. I give you 5 breaths to answer. With his scheme uncovered, Yue Feng had no choice but to quickly respond. Mirror Immortal Gu caused trouble, killing 70 to 80% of the camp. The remaining people have all merged into our Great Xia camp. Indeed. The middle-aged man's gaze sharpened. Recalling the Mirror Immortal's premises just now, the houses hadn't suffered much damage, nor were any bodies seen. His heart turned cold. In a normal camp conflict annihilation, it shouldn't be like this. He had just suspected it was deceitful monsters at work, and finally confirmed it upon hearing Yue Feng's answer. He Yuan Hun and Yuan Hu, were they both killed by the deceitful monster? He Yuan Hun colluded with the deceitful monster, causing everyone's deaths, including Yuan Hu. Our leader Xia Hong defeated He Yuan Hun, chased him away, and only then rescued the survivors. Yue Feng's response made the middle-aged man's face tense up. He looked directly into Yue Feng's eyes, first showing doubt, then gradually it turned into mockery, finally letting out a light laugh. Even now you're thinking of stalling. You are quite clever, but using such words to fool me, do you think I'd believe? Yue Feng's heart sank, not yet understanding the reason for the other's doubts when the middle-aged man's tone abruptly turned low. What kind of person is He Yuan Hun? With just an obscure Great Xia camp leader like you defeating and chasing him away, do you think I'm muddle-headed? Before the words were fully spoken, the middle-aged man's massive build suddenly moved. At a distance of over 10 meters, Yue Feng only felt a gust of wind hitting him head-on, and he hadn't even seen it clearly when the middle-aged man's fist appeared in his eyes. The shadow of death loomed over him, and Yue Feng couldn't react in time as only 2 words popped into his mind. It's over. Bam! A violent shockwave suddenly exploded, and Yue Feng's body was instantly sent flying back over 10 meters. The 14 people not far from him were all scattered by the shock as well, some even unable to stand and fell directly to the ground. However, when getting up, Yue Feng saw the black figure standing in front of him, his face full of relief and surprise. The other 14's expressions were equally invigorated upon seeing the scene. Leader. The leader is here. Greetings, leader. Xia Hong held the middle-aged man's right fist with one hand, his gaze dark and eyes glinting with a trace of indiscernible killing intent. The middle-aged man, who was just extremely overbearing, now had a face full of heaviness, especially realizing that he couldn't even retrieve his fist. Feeling the terrifying strength in Xia Hong's hand, his pupils even carried a trace of fear. Could you be the great Xia leader? Bam! The middle-aged man hadn't even finished his sentence when Xia Hong suddenly released his hand, kicking him directly in the abdomen. The terrifying force caused the middle-aged man's abdomen to dent a dozen centimeters inward, and his body catapulted backward dozens of meters like a cannonball, not only flying out of the mine but also crashing into the snow, dragging for over 10 meters in the snow before stopping. The middle-aged man got up from the snow, spat a mouthful of blood, quickly drew a section of a soft sword from his waist, and stared fiercely at Xia Hong, utterly horrified. "I'm in a good mood today, seeing as you're quite old. Let me teach you how to speak. You are not qualified to ask me questions. Whatever I ask next, you answer honestly, understood?" This was the same thing he had just said to Yue Feng and the others. Now, Xia Hong had returned it intact. The middle-aged man clearly understood that the other was venting for Yue Feng and the others. The middle-aged man's face flushed with alternating shades of red and green with anger, yet despite the fury in his chest, he thought of that kick just now, kept his mouth shut, and didn't dare utter a word. The expressions of Yue Feng and the others immediately became exhilarated. This is the leader. This middle-aged man also possessed cold resistance level strength, yet in Xia Hong's presence, he didn't even have the courage to retort, just like how he faced him just a moment before. The Mountain River team was established quite recently. Aside from Yue Feng and a few others, most who joined later were from the earth-digging realm of 5-8 Mountain. These people hadn't yet experienced Xia Hong's prowess firsthand. Now, witnessing Xia Hong's strength for the first time, their eyes inevitably gave rise to the same fervent enthusiasm as with Yue Feng and the few others. Xia Hong fixed his gaze on the middle-aged man and began questioning in a calm manner. "Name and position." "Chen Yingba, leader of the Hive Camp hunting team." "Do you know He Yuanhun?" "We've interacted twice before, worked together twice in hunting advanced cold beasts." Hearing about advanced cold beasts, Xia Hong raised an eyebrow but did not press the point, continuing to ask, "How many people in the Hive Camp and what's your leader's name?" This question caused Chen Yingba's expression to stiffen. But when he looked up and saw Xia Hong's gradually darkening expression, he tightened his mind, gritted his teeth and said, "Our Hive Camp's total population exceeds 60,000. The great leader is Chen Yingyuan, and the second leader is Wu Tianxing, both stronger than me. Your strength is indeed formidable, but—" Chapter 380, Chapter 188, Venting, Drawing Lines, Preparations /2. Chen Yingba hadn't finished speaking when he saw Xia Hong flick his right hand towards him. His nerves instantly tensed up, and he instinctively dodged to the side. Swishing. But before his body could move, a sharp whistling sound had already penetrated his mind. A sharp pain came from his ear. He quickly reached up to touch it, noticing that his ear cartilage had been pierced, and a wave of anger surged from deep within his eyes, but fearing Xia Hong would notice, he quickly lowered his head. "Did I tell you to speak? Stop trying to be clever." Xia Hong glanced at the downcast Chen Yingba. A glint of killing intent flashed briefly in his eyes. An expert of the cold resistance level, likely the third in command of the Hive Camp, Chen Yingba must have been arrogant and overbearing usually. Being fiercely humiliated like this, how resentful he must be in his heart, there's no need to guess. You should be grateful that it was just your earlobe that was grazed. If it had been somewhere else, your life would be staying here today. Xia Hong stared at him for a long time, eventually putting away the killing intent in his eyes, and after speaking in a flat tone, continued, "The territory of the Mirror Immortal is now entirely the property of Great Xia. You can forget about this iron mine. From today forward, 10 miles north of Jing Valley belongs to Great Xia. Next time, if I find your people intruding again." Saying this, Xia Hong paused, saw a giant rock at his feet, stored up a bit of strength and kicked it towards Chen Yingba. The rock was half the size of a person, likely dug out from the mine, weighing at least 2,000 to 3,000 pounds. Yet with Xia Hong's kick, it seemed to weigh nothing as it soared into the air, instantly crashing towards Chen Yingba's face. Whoosh! The sound of violent air currents came. Chen Yingba's pupils contracted. Recalling the power Xia Hong had just displayed, he quickly dodged to the side, held his breath and braced with his shoulder. However, at the moment the rock collided with his shoulder. Bam! With a loud bang, Chen Yingba's body flew backward like a kite with its string cut, thrown back dozens of meters. He swiftly scrambled up from the ground, looking at his own bloody and mangled shoulder which had a huge sunken area, gulped down a mouthful of saliva, and couldn't recover from the shock for a long time. The kick in the cave earlier, he could still say he was careless and unprepared, leading to his sorry state. But this massive rock Xia Hong kicked over, he had been bracing himself to take. Yet the outcome was still the same. What does this indicate? It indicates that his strength is on a completely different level from this great Xia camp leader standing before him. How could this be? Could it be that Xia Hong is a level above the cold resistance level? He must be, otherwise how could he defeat He Yuanhun? Get lost. At this moment, Chen Yingba's heart had no trace of anger left. Upon hearing Xia Hong utter those two words, he felt nothing but relief, even a bit of gratitude. He covered his shoulder and ran north without looking back. Leader, you're amazing. That Chen Yingba was so arrogant just now, and he actually fled like a whipped dog, ha. He was so harsh to us, but didn't dare say a peep in front of the leader. He deserved to be taught a lesson. As soon as Chen Yingba left, the mood in the cave instantly relaxed. Yue Feng, although his expression was also excited, remained relatively calm, and seeing the sky darkening led everyone out of the cave. Leader, we're lucky you came in time. Otherwise these two iron mines would probably have fallen into the hands of the hive camp. Xia Hong turned to look at Yue Feng and the others. With a touch of appreciation on his face, he said, "It's right to guard the iron mine, but you must also know your limits. The strength of Chen Yingba is not on the same level as yours. Next time in such a situation, you should compromise if needed. Preserving your life is the most important. We can always retake the mine if it's lost, but life, once lost, is gone forever." Hearing these words, a wave of emotion washed over everyone's faces. Moved, Yue Feng clenched the fists under his sleeves, hungry for more strength, recalling the humiliation just moments ago. If Xia Hong hadn't arrived in time, his little life would surely have been lost. Leader, have you always been in the arrow bamboo forest area? Xia Hong shook his head and replied, I've indeed been around here for the past few days, but I usually come during the day. Just finished some business, and as soon as I returned to camp, I heard Li Yuankun talking about something happening here. They couldn't come during the day, so I hurried over alone. Upon hearing this, Yue Feng and the others' faces showed a look of relief. It's fortunate that Xia Hong has reached the cold resistance level, moving differently from them. If he were still like before, they would surely have been doomed tonight. Leader, Chen Yingba was punished so severely by you, he surely won't dare cross over to Jing Valley again. We can peacefully manage this area now. Dare to come again, is he courting death? Couldn't even take a rock kicked by the leader. What face does he have to come back? Haha, surely he won't dare to come again. Hearing the discussion among the Mountain River team members, Xia Hong furrowed his brow. Not just Xia Hong, even Yue Feng's expression slightly froze. Chen Yingba was indeed harshly reprimanded just now, and from his reaction earlier, you could tell he's likely afraid and won't come back. But he's merely the leader of the Beehive's hunting team, likely only the third in command. Above him are the great leader Chen Yingyuan and the second leader Wu Tianxing. Chen Yingyuan and Chen Yingba should probably be brothers. The hive camp's follow-up reaction still remains uncertain. The leader didn't strike fatally and let him go. If those two leaders of the hive camp aren't fools, they should understand the implication. Chapter 381, Chapter 188, Venting, Drawing Lines, Preparations /3. Seeing that Yue Feng had realized his intention, Xia Hong was not surprised. He nodded and said, let's watch the ongoing situation. I'll be staying around here during this time. At nightfall, Xia Chuan will bring people over. I've left a prey at the entrance of the arrow bamboo forest. Take someone with you to bring it over. Later, let them take it back to the camp. Yue Feng nodded and led 3 people towards the arrow bamboo forest. Left a prey, Captain. Does the leader also go out to hunt cold beasts? The 3 people following Yue Feng looked a bit curious. They had not been in Great Xia for long and hadn't heard that Xia Hong would personally partake in hunting. Of course he would. Our camp's current stability is due to the leader's early days of bringing back one cold beast after another. In terms of hunting ability, all our hunting teams combined likely can't match him. Hearing this, the 3 exchanged glances, a hint of doubt in their eyes. They didn't really doubt Xia Hong's strength, especially after witnessing the recent events. But the issue was, hunting ability and individual strength are 2 different things. Cold beasts are no simple foes. Not only do they have strength far beyond humans of the same level, they each possess special skills, and their vitality is extremely resilient. The earth-digging realm is qualified to hunt, but it requires multiple people working as a team. This is the same at any camp, acknowledging the cold beast's strength. Of course, strength is a crucial metric, but team coordination, hunting experience, and tools are equally important. No matter how strong Xia Hong is, his hunting ability shouldn't surpass all the combined hunting teams. Still, doubt apart, the three wouldn't express it openly. Noticing their expressions, Yue Feng didn't bother explaining. After all, they'd only been in the camp for a month. With time, they'd naturally understand. Recalling the days of hunting with Xia Hong, Yue Feng's face showed nostalgia and a touch of loss. Since Xia Hong started breaking through to the cold resistance level, he stopped taking them on hunts. Yue Feng knew the reason well. Their abilities no longer matched the leader's pace. Before the leader's breakthrough, he could solo hunt intermediate cold beasts. The next group hunt might target high-level cold beasts. Recalling what Chen Yingba just mentioned about his encounters with He Yunhun twice due to high-level cold beast hunts, Yue Feng's expression turned serious. There was a hidden message in that statement. Only at the cold resistance level does one qualify to cooperate in hunting high-level cold beasts. I must hasten my breakthrough, otherwise, when the leader next requires assistance for a hunt, I won't even qualify to join. Quickly, the four reached the arrow bamboo forest entrance, at the spot Xia Hong mentioned, and found the prey after a brief search. However, upon finding the prey, the three who had doubted Xia Hong's hunting capability were immediately stunned. Above the bamboo grove lay a snow-white cold beast around 7 or 8 meters long, with a massive and burly build. Its eyes were wide open, its huge paws hung powerlessly across its chest, and its entire body bore no visible wounds. Is this an intermediate white bear? Where's its wound? Here, on the back of the neck, come take a look. Hearing the call, Yue Feng and the other two climbed onto the white bear's back, and upon seeing the wound, their pupils constricted. At the back of the white bear's neck was a narrow cut over a foot in length, which seemed inserted deeply. Large amounts of blood had flowed out, staining most of its back red. Yue Feng's face reflected a momentary change as he examined further, spotting several footprints, leading to a deduction of the kill process. The leader must have kicked over the white bear, then stabbed its back neck with a blade, severing its spine to bleed it out. With its spine severed, the white bear naturally lost all ability to resist, left only to await death. Such a huge white bear, and the leader could kick it down. Directly severed spine. This white bear shows no signs of a struggle, and the leader doesn't have any injuries. Gulping, the three involuntarily swallowed, and upon exchanging a glance, fully realized how laughable their doubts of Xia Hong had been. Don't use common sense to gauge the leader's strength. Compared to him, we're like 5- or 6-year-old children. This time, hearing Yue Feng's words, all three nodded, no longer daring to doubt, their hearts filled with respect and fervor for Xia Hong. The four quickly carried the white bear back to the edge of Jing Valley iron mine. Half an hour past nightfall, a large team finally arrived. Xia Chuan not only brought all members of his Cloud Jiao team, but also the 6-member squad including Yuan Dao, Luo Yuan, and the 3 Yuan Cheng brothers. A total of 140 people across 7 squads gathered densely at the edge of the iron mine. Greetings later. After everyone saluted Xia Hong, Yue Feng promptly stepped up to brief Xia Chuan and the others on the earlier situation. Hearing that the hive camp harbored murderous intent, although ultimately rebuked by his elder brother, a solemn look still crossed Xia Chuan's face. Chen Yingba, I know him. Cold resistance level strength, quite the temper, previously clashed with my father, got beaten badly once by He Yunhun, and only Chen Yingyuan's mediation settled it. Chapter 382, Chapter 188, Venting, Drawing Lines, Preparations /4. Xia Hong in the front heard the sound, immediately turned to look at Yuan Dao, and repeated what Chen Yingba had just said, then asked, "How much do you know about the hive camp? Are these words credible?" "Over 60,000 people. How is that possible? He must be lying." Yuan Dao paused for a moment, then continued, "Everything else is fine. There is indeed a hunting team at the hive camp. I don't know the exact number, but I've heard He Yunhun mention it before, about 500. Chen Yingba is indeed the leader. Chen Yingyuan and Wu Tangxing are also real. He Yunhun mentioned them too. It's just the 60,000 people. That's definitely fake. If the hive camp had that many people, the earth-digging realm wouldn't be just this much." Fake. So earlier, Chen Yingba was lying to him. It's not hard to guess, probably just afraid of being finished off, so he intentionally exaggerated the strength of the hive camp a little. Xia Hong shook his head slightly. Chen Yingba's little trick was naturally not enough to fool him. Next, just wait and see how the hive camp reacts. For this period, I'll be staying on the Jing Valley side. You guys have been fully exploring the Arrow Bamboo Forest recently, right? Just leave a few teams stationed here. The mining caves on the southern side of the valley are almost depleted, right? These 2 iron mines can also be used. Xia Chuan heard this and nodded, recalled something, turned to look at Yue Feng and said, "Today is just the 30th, Yue Feng. Li Yuankun told me last night. Your mountain river team has explored the Arrow Bamboo Forest to a depth of 31 kilometers over these 9 days. Is that correct?" Yue Feng's expression brightened, took out a beast skin roll from his bosom, handed it to Xia Chuan and nodded in response. "Master, this is the map I drew." Xia Chuan glanced at the contents of the beast skin roll, looked up and said, 9 days ago, I mentioned it. By the end of this month, whoever explores the Arrow Bamboo Forest area the deepest will be in charge of the Jing Valley outpost. I've confirmed with the other teams, none of them went deeper than you. So, this Jing Valley outpost will be your responsibility. An expression of joy appeared on Yue Feng's face, and he bowed deeply. I obey your order. Xia Chuan thought for a moment, turned to Yuan Dao and continued. On this Jing Valley side, it still needs someone familiar to guard it. For this period, just let the Dragon Wu, Divine Marshal Zhenwu, Heroic, Qingwu 5 teams people stay here. Along with Yue Feng's Mountain River team, a total of 6 teams with 120 people in total. Director Yuan, what do you think? Yuan Dao nodded and said, that's appropriate. We are familiar with Jing Valley and Arrow Bamboo Forest. The arrangements made by the master are fine. After speaking, he directly turned and spoke to Hong Guang beside him. Uncle Hong, you now return to the camp once. Inform Hong Tian, Zhu Ling, Zhu Yuan, and Meng Yi to lead the team members, bring all necessary supplies and come over directly. All right, I'll go now. Standing at the back, Xia Hong caught a glimpse of Hong Guang and smiled slightly. Hong Guang's Xuanwu team had been disbanded, and after the team size was expanded, he directly joined Yuan Dao's Dragon Wu team. After making a mistake, Hong Guang became significantly more composed, not as reckless as before. All right, everyone can go back. You are not needed here for the time being. By the way, Xia Chuan, how are your preparations coming along? Xia Chuan was stunned upon hearing this, realized what Xia Hong was asking, and a wry smile appeared on his face. He walked up to Xia Hong and said somewhat shyly, Big brother, do we really have to make it like that? It's not necessary, just getting together like everyone else would be fine. No need to make such a big scene. Seeing Xia Chuan's bashful manner, Xia Hong couldn't help but smile, shaking his head. Just because everyone doesn't do it this way, I'm having you do it to set an example for them. Once you take the lead, others in the camp will naturally follow suit. Trust me, it won't be wrong. Hurry back and prepare. Seeing Xia Hong's insistence, Xia Chuan could only nod. All right, then I'll take everyone back now. Big brother, be careful here, and remember to send someone back with a message if anything happens. Chapter 383. Chapter 189. The Provoked Xiao Hen New House Xia Li. The first year of the Great Xia, 5th day of the 5th month. A new record has been set, 11 years old at the logging realm. How long has it been? It's only been half a month since the last record was broken. 11 years old, a whole year younger than before. That's so fast. Amazing. In the martial arts hall behind the wooden building in the valley, Xiao Hen was practicing his punches, using the energy of beast meat within him, when he suddenly heard a commotion in front and became a bit curious. Someone broke through again. Who is it? Seems like someone called Liu Peng, and this time it's the logging realm record. Lord Qiu Peng came personally and awarded 500 contribution points. Tisk tisk, 500 points, that's enough to train in the martial arts hall for 10 days. Hearing about the 500-point reward, Xiao Hen exchanged a glance with Xiao Lin beside him, both showing a hint of envy in their eyes. 500 contribution points, Uncle Cheng and father, they only get over 300 points for hunting a low-level cold beast, shared among 20 people. That's just about 15 points per person. 500 points from hunting alone, they might not even earn that in a month. Xiao Lin's father is Xiao Yuan, so he knows the situation of the hunting team well. 500 contribution points is indeed a substantial sum for an individual. Today's the 5th, and Father and the others have only hunted 3 cold beasts in total, which is better than before at 5-8 Mountain, but compared to other teams, it seems lacking. Xiao Lin nodded and said, I heard yesterday Dragon Slayer, Falcon, Steel Bristle, Golden Eagle, Zhao Long. These 5 teams have already completed this month's basic quota. How impressive is that? Xiao Hen, hearing this, felt a shock in his heart. The basic quota is 15 cold beasts. Xiao Lin heard it yesterday. Doesn't that mean these 5 teams can hunt on average 4 cold beasts a day? Scary, right? I heard from Father that the captains of these 5 teams used to hunt with the leader in the early days. Not only are they strong, but they also know the habits of cold beasts inside out, with rich hunting experience. We, who came from behind at 5-8 Mountain, simply can't compare. I know during this period, Father often goes to find that Dragon Slayer team's captain, Yuan Cheng, to learn about the habits and key points of hunting various cold beasts. Xiao Lin loves to join the excitement, and seeing people gather to discuss ahead, he called out to Xiao Hen and squeezed in to listen. Xiao Hen stayed in place, continuing to practice his punches, recalling how Yuan Cheng came looking for his father yesterday, and after he left, his father's conversation with him became more solemn. Still playing every day. Do you know how old this Yuan Cheng is this year? How old? 18. The same age as your future brother-in-law, with basic strength already at 29,000, about to use beast blood to prepare for a breakthrough to cold resistance level. Yet you're still grinning every day, thinking you're something just because you broke through logging realm. If you don't hurry up and train, forget about comparing with the same aged people of Great Xia. I reckon even your 2 sisters will leave you far behind. Father Xiao Qingcheng's words hit Xiao Hen like a heavy hammer in his heart. At 5-8 Mountain at Xiao He Camp, he was a 15-year-old genius at the logging realm, cherished by everyone at the camp, with parents and 2 sisters spoiling him. But upon arriving at Great Xia, he realized he was nothing. Especially in recent days, with Father and Uncle Yuan spending lavishly, allowing him and Xiao Lin to train at the martial arts hall, the more people he met, the more he understood, the more he realized his talent wasn't worth mentioning at Great Xia. If Yuan Cheng was someone he still had a chance to catch up with, then his future brother-in-law Xia Chuan and the current hunting department director Yuan Dao were practically unattainable for him. An 18-year-old at the limit of the earth-digging realm, already beginning to use beast blood, soon to break through to cold resistance level. Not to mention, at the top, there was the leader Xia Hong. When he found out a few days ago that the leader was only 20 years old, he was stunned. No wonder Father used Yuan Cheng to motivate him. If he used these 3 people, it wouldn't be motivation, but rather a blow. Xiao Lin came back after gathering information, approached excitedly. Hen, I've found out that Liu Peng, who just broke through, his brother Liu Yuan, is a member of the Cloud Jiao team. I heard Liu Yuan is filthy rich and often sends his brother to the martial arts hall to train. No wonder he broke through so fast. Hearing that Liu Yuan was a member of the Cloud Jiao team, Xiao Hen's face showed a hint of surprise. That's no surprise. The members of the Cloud Jiao team don't lack contribution points. I heard from my eldest sister that Lord Minister's team is likely to become our Great Xia's first intermediate hunting team, and it said they've already successfully hunted 2 intermediate cold beasts. Xiao Lin immediately nodded and said, I also heard from Father that the first intermediate hunting team would either be the Cloud Jiao team or the Dragon Wu team. As they talked, Xiao Lin thought of something, his eyes showing a trace of envy, teasingly said, He, you're still calling Lord Minister. You should call him brother-in-law. Xiao Hen was stunned by his words, didn't say anything, and continued to practice his punches. He could naturally see the envy in Xiao Lin's eyes. He probably also understood what the other was thinking. As those of them sprinting towards the earth-digging realm, what they currently paid the most attention to was the situation of the various hunting teams. After all, once they break through to the earth-digging realm, they would enter the hunting department, and they would have to choose a team to enter. Xiao Lin probably felt that with Xia Chuan as his brother-in-law, he would surely be able to enter the Cloud Jiao team in the future. If I said I didn't want to join, that would be a lie. But Xiao Hen had other plans. Chapter 384, Chapter 189, The Provoked Xiao Hen New House Xia Li. Father Xiao Qingcheng also founded a team named Xiao Shan. Originally, he wanted to call it Xiao He, but the hunting department made a rule that the original camp names couldn't be used, so he changed one character to Xiao Shan. The Xiao Shan team was clearly founded by my father to commemorate the Zio He camp. Although it's quite weak now and doesn't rank within the 23 hunting teams, Zio Hen has witnessed his father's hard work in managing it. So it goes without saying, once he breaks through the earth-digging realm, he will definitely join the Xiao Shan team to help his father. Thinking of breaking through, Zio Hen immediately asked, Lin, what is the current record age for breaking through to the earth-digging realm? Zio Lin, who loves finding out about these things, quickly replied, 15 years and 9 months, named Li Yuanqing. 15 years and 9 months. Hearing this number, Zio Hen's expression instantly showed some frustration. He was already 15 years and 7 months old, with a basic strength of 7,400 jin. Given the current pace of cultivation, it was almost impossible to break this record by reaching the earth-digging realm within the next 2 months. Heng, stop thinking about it. We've had too hard a life before. Our cultivation talents and physical foundations are incomparable to those from Great Xia. For example, Liu Peng, who just broke through the logging realm, do you think he's impressive? I just overheard them discussing that Liu Peng's record might be broken in just a few days. Zio Hen, puzzled by the words, thought breaking through to the logging realm at age 11 was already extraordinary. How could it be broken in a few days? There are several kids just over 10 years old, all trying to break through the logging realm. Among them, a child named Lu Dong is already on the brink of breaking through, poised to set a new record. Zio Hen was already feeling a bit numb. He had broken through the logging realm at age 13, which was a sensation at the camp for several months. His father even said there would probably not be anyone younger than him in the logging realm in the 5-8 mountain region. Just over 10, logging realm. Lin, we need to hurry up and train, not waste time. 50 contribution points per day aren't cheap and should be utilized well. Next time we may not know when we get to come here again. Zio Hen felt a strong sense of urgency. After speaking, he immediately focused on training. The martial arts hall only had 200 spots daily, and having contribution points doesn't guarantee entry to train. The camp supply department allocated spots in the martial arts hall, dividing them according to cultivation into 3 parts. Earth-digging realm the most, with 120 spots, logging realm 50 spots, below logging realm 30 spots. Even with this, they had to rotate through them, showing just how tight the quotas were. Currently, the camp had over 4,000 people in the logging realm, relying solely on those 50 spots. It would take Zio Lin at least 3 months to get inside once. His own situation was a bit better, as he had quite a good aptitude. The camp supply department would give special consideration, but even so, it would be over a month before he could come in once. In recent days, both he and Zio Lin could train here, not only because their fathers provided their contribution points, but also because the spots were from their fathers. This wasn't uncommon in the camp, with many older members in the earth-digging realm doing the same. The camp supply department recently issued a regulation stating that entry spots to the martial arts hall could be transferred, but only allowed between blood relatives. Because of this, not just him and Zio Lin, but others who took over spots from their parents or relatives also trained very diligently. Time up everyone out. Time slowly passed. As the person responsible for the martial arts hall gave the reminder, everyone who had trained for the day gradually walked out. Zio Hen and Zio Lin were among the crowd, feeling that their basic strength had increased significantly. They were excited, yet a bit reluctant. If only we could stay and train in the martial arts hall forever. Not realistic, it's not just us who want to become stronger. Zio Hen shook his head slightly, pointing in front of the martial arts hall after speaking. Outside the martial arts hall, another group of 200 was ready and immediately filled in after their batch exited. Zio Lin shrugged and with Zio Hen, followed the crowd toward the wooden building. Just before dawn, as they walked, they noticed a small group in the crowd veering around the wooden building, heading to the side. What are they going to do? Zio Lin's curious nature immediately surfaced. He quickly moved to the front row and followed, not forgetting to pull Zio Hen along. The two followed the crowd around the wooden building to the front, on the west side, where a few wooden houses came into view, and the discussions among the front crowd reached their ears. Is that finished one the house of Lord Minister? Of course, the one being built next to it is for Lord Yuan Cheng, the captain of the Dragon Slayer team. Besides these two, there are still 8 others under construction, so many. The owners' names are written above the houses. Look for yourselves. Number 3 Luo Yuan, number 4 Zhao Long, number 5 Zhao Hu, number 6 Zhao Bao, number 7 Huang Yang, number 8 Han Gang, number 9 Ying Xuan, number 10 Yue Feng. How do they have so much contribution value? I remember plot number 11 already costs 5,000 points, and plots 3 to 10 are closer to the wooden building. Wouldn't they be even more expensive? Nonsense. Lord Luo Yuan is the captain of the Tiger Leopard team. Lords Zhao Long, Zhao Hu, and Zhao Bao are the captains of the Falcon, Steel Tusk, and Golden Eagle teams, respectively. Lord Huang Yang is the captain of the Zhao Long team. You wouldn't be unaware of these 5 hunting teams, right? So it's them, no wonder. But wait, Lord Minister, Lord Yuan, and these 5 captains. We understand their hunting teams are strong and possess lots of contribution value. But what about the other 3? Chapter 385. Chapter 189. The Provoked Xiao Hen New House Xia Li. I remember that Lord Yue Feng's Mountain River team was just established last month, so their strength shouldn't be too strong. Han Gang and Ying Xuan aren't captains of any hunting team either. How did they get so many contribution values? That's something you might not understand. Yue Feng, Han Gang, and Ying Xuan were all members of the first batch of hunting teams in Great Xia. It's said that in the early days, they followed the leaders on hunts, earning a lot of contribution values which they hadn't used, so that's why they have so many. I see. I was just saying, Dragon Wu team's strength is also significant. How come Yuan Sijeng isn't buying land to build a house? He only joined Great Xia Camp last month, so his contribution value should still be insufficient. Just look at the sign in front of plot number 11. Upon hearing these words, Xiao Hen and Xiao Lin quickly turned their heads to look. In front of plot number 11 stood a sign with the words Yuan Dao written on it, clearly indicating it's already owned. Lord Chief is really impressive. It said he only arrived at Great Xia Camp on March 19th, and it's been just over a month and a half since he established Dragon Wu team, yet he could come up with 5,000 contribution values. How many cold beasts must he have hunted? After all, they are one of the only 2 hunting teams capable of hunting intermediate cold beasts. It said if Dragon Wu team hadn't been reassigned to the Jing Valley recently, they might have been promoted to intermediate level faster than Cloud Jiao team. Cloud Jiao team hasn't been promoted to intermediate yet, right? Not yet, but they're close. They've already hunted an intermediate snow mane and an intermediate demon sheep, just missing 3 more types of intermediate cold beasts. Xiao Hen and Xiao Lin looked at the 2 completed houses not far away, and the 8 others under construction, their eyes filled with envy. Both had no interest in the discussions nearby, with only immense longing in their hearts. Lin, tell me, when can we move out and build a house truly of our own? Xiao Lin pondered for a moment, then replied, 5,000 contribution values. My dad said it would take at least over 4 months to save up. The camp currently still controls iron ore, allowing houses to be built only with wood, which can be entirely sourced externally, so the highest cost remains the land. Besides, there's merely some labor fee to be paid to the craftsman department, which someone calculated to be less than 300 points, almost negligible compared to land prices. This answer clearly didn't satisfy Xiao Hen. He shook his head and said, what I mean is a house that's entirely ours, not one your father makes for you. On hearing this, Xiao Lin stood there in a daze. Just then, they heard the sounds of a group of children playing and shouting by the wooden building. Luo, and when would your house be ready? My dad said it will be ready the day after tomorrow. By then, my mom and I can move in, and we won't have to be crowded anymore, haha. Wow, that's great. I wish I could move out too. Zhu Ping, have your dad go build it outside too. My dad says we're still a bit short on contribution values, so it probably will take a few more days. That's soon too. Zhao Quan, is your house almost ready as well? My dad said it would be done in 3 days, right next door to yours. Ha, then we can train and play together. Upon hearing the voices of these 6 or 7-year-old children, Xiao Lin's face immediately turned red. Did you hear that, Lin? Only these kids rely entirely on their fathers. We're not so young anymore. I heard from my father that 2 years ago, the chief was 18 and the minister was 16. At that time, Great Xia Camp had just over 100 people and only 1 logging team, all of whom died at the hands of the deceitful monster. The chief and minister took command in that critical situation, and in just 2 short years, they not only grew immensely stronger, avenging their father's death by slaying the deceitful monster, but also developed Great Xia Camp to such prosperity. If we were in such a situation, do you think we could manage it? Not to mention doing it, surviving such a predicament is questionable at best. Xiao Lin merely shook his head. He had yet to see a deceitful monster, only having heard from his father that it was a terrifyingly dreadful creature, guaranteed death upon encounter. Therefore, we must strive hard. Great Xia offers such excellent conditions. If we remain complacent, we will surely be left far behind by others. We're not aiming to rival geniuses like the chief and the minister, but at the very least, we cannot be outpaced too far by our peers. I understand, Ah Heng. Noticing the seriousness in Xiao Hen's tone, Xiao Lin nodded firmly, gaining some determination. By all accounts, his talent was no match for Xiao Hen, and even Xiao Hen felt the pressure in Great Xia. If he didn't work hard, he might live well now thanks to his father, but what about the future? In Great Xia, everything is dictated by strength. Anything desired must be exchanged for contribution values, which are essentially a quantified measure of strength. Xiao Heng, why are you standing outside? Let's head back together. A soft voice suddenly sounded behind Xiao Hen, and he hurriedly turned around to see it was his elder sister Xiao Ning standing behind him, and he immediately broke into a smile. Big sis, you're back. Just returned from hunting. Father and others went to the camp supply department to trade off the prey and told me to come back first. Fortunately, I ran into you. Knowing that his father had returned, a smile appeared on Xiao Hen's face. He pulled Xiao Lin beside him, and they returned to the wooden building together. The Xiao mountain team was also required to go out hunting each night, and now it was just about dawn, the perfect time for them to return to the camp. Following behind, Xiao Ning gazed at Xiao Hen, a look of gratification in her eyes. Judging by his character during the 5-8 mountain period, words like those would have never come out of Xiao Hen's mouth. He had changed immensely after being in Great Xia Camp for just over half a month. If father knew, he'd surely be very happy too. Xiao Qingcheng with his wife and 3 children made up a family of 5. Even though he led a hunting team and had a special relationship with Minister Xia Chuan, his status in the camp wasn't low, but they didn't enjoy any special privileges. During the room allocation on the 21st of last month, his family also received a room alongside 8 other households, according to Xia Chuan's household registration system. However, they were assigned to the 3rd floor of the wooden building. The rooms on the 1st and 2nd floors of the wooden building had lengths of 10 meters, resulting in an area of 100 square meters each. The 3rd floor, on the other hand, only had 100 rooms, so each room was 20 meters long, boasting a spacious 400 square meters. This was a kind of special treatment, but not specifically for Xia Kangcheng's family. Rather, it applied to all families in the earth-digging realm in the camp. It was naturally impossible for the 9 households to live together. Given the ample space, along with being earth-digging realm families with relatively generous means, they took the initiative to source boards and divide the large room into 9 independent small rooms, leaving 1-meter-wide aisles both horizontally and vertically. Xiao Qingcheng's family lived in the West End room at number 96 on the 3rd floor. Xiao Ning led Xiao Hen and Xiao Lin to the 3rd floor, where they saw a dense crowd gathered at their doorstep before they even reached home. Congratulations, Captain Xiao. Where are your eldest and 2nd daughters? The minister has been here for a while. Why haven't the 2 girls arrived? They must be shy, too embarrassed to meet anyone, hahaha. Minister, what's this stage called? Presenting betrothal gifts. Yes, it's presenting betrothal gifts. Haven't you heard? Minister just mentioned that after presenting upon agreement, the date for the marrying will be set, leading to the wedding. Is this whole process called Xia Li? Not exactly, it's merely a part concerning the wedding from the Xia Li etiquette section. The minister mentioned he's doing this as a template today. In the future, it's up to us whether or not to follow it. Then I must have a good look to see the difference a wedding makes, hahaha. Today, many girls have come to see the date setting. I heard it's quite interesting. Upon approaching, realizing what was being discussed, Xiao Ning suddenly blushed bright crimson, too embarrassed to approach her doorstep. Silly girl, what are you doing standing there? Hurry, come over here. The sharp-eyed Lin Lan immediately noticed the eldest daughter at the back of the crowd. Smiling warmly, she walked over, pulling Xiao Ning from the crowd back home. The eldest daughter is back. The eldest daughter is back. Minister, the one who will receive the betrothal gifts has arrived. Ha ha ha, she's here, she's here. Chapter 386, Chapter 190, Xia Li 4 articles Someone is coming. Xiao Ning was led through the crowd by her mother's hand, and as soon as she entered the house, she saw Xia Chuan sitting next to her father, looking at her with a warm smile. Her already rosy cheeks turned an even deeper shade of red. The eldest girl is shy, she's shy, ha ha ha. The second girl just ran into the room, bring her out too. You're going to be the minister's wife soon. Don't be shy, come out and let everyone have a look. Unable to withstand the teasing of those around her, Xiao Ning quickly freed herself from her mother Lin Lan's hand and ran directly into her own room. Xiao Qingcheng looked at his usually composed eldest daughter, showing such a shy demeanor, and couldn't help but chuckle softly. He clasped his hands toward Xia Chuan and said, "My daughter was out of line. Please forgive her, minister." Xia Chuan shook his head with a light laugh and said, "Father-in-law, there's no need to call me that anymore. After the betrothal, we are family. You should start calling me Xia Chuan from now on." Although Xiao Qingcheng had already heard the term father-in-law earlier, hearing it again brought a satisfied expression to his face, with his eyes unable to hide a smile. He replied softly, "Very well, from now on we are family. I will boldly call you Xia Chuan." Among the onlookers in the crowd, many were around Xiao Qingcheng's age, with daughters of their own, whether married or not. Witnessing this scene, they couldn't help but feel an inexplicable sense of emotional stir. In the ice abyss world, relationships between men and women have always been casual. This casualness doesn't imply promiscuity. Rather, people simply don't take it seriously. Young men and women would get together if they liked each other, without needing parental consent or going through any procedure, just a verbal agreement and it's considered done. Due to men's inherent advantages in hunting, and generally being stronger than women in cultivation, families were typically patriarchal after forming, with women's ties to their families being more emotional than practical. In this way, a tradition favoring men over women isn't really surprising, mainly because it affects the bond between the husband's and wife's families, often leading to complete estrangement over time, with scarcely any interaction. Marrying off a daughter in the Great Xia camp used to be no big deal. After all, women themselves were not deemed important. Such a tradition, once you get used to it, seems fine since everyone follows it. But Xia Chuan's visit today made everyone realize that all of this could be changed. Moreover, there's now a protocol to follow. Xia Li. All eyes unconsciously focused on Qiu Peng beside Xia Chuan, or more precisely, on the book scroll in his hand, with expressions filled with inexplicable meaning. Seated on the chair, Xia Chuan noticed the crowd's attention, shifted slightly, and nodded at Qiu Peng beside him. Qiu Peng understood the cue, clapped his hands with a smile. Immediately, 6 people cheerfully carried in 6 wooden boxes from outside. Today, for the daughters Xiao Ning and Xiao Yu of Xiao Qingcheng, Minister Xia Chuan wishes to propose marriage and has sent down 6 betrothal gifts, sincerely asking for your acceptance, dear father-in-law. Qiu Peng opened the book, clearly reading from its contents. The others, including Xiao Qingcheng, listened intently, not paying much attention, waiting for his next words. Gift 1, 100 pounds of beast meat. The first box was opened on cue, revealing 10 pieces of deep blue cold beast meat inside, causing the crowd's eyes to light up instantly. Tusk, 100 pounds of cold beast meat, that's 50 contribution value points. What a grand gesture, I'd have to chop trees for days to earn that. Going out hunting, you'd have to catch 3 animals to get that much. And that's just the first item, quiet, there are still 5 boxes to go. Gift 2, 10 meters of cotton cloth. The second box was opened, containing a roll of pure white, soft fabric. Gift 3, 2 longswords. Gift 4, 6 beast tooth carved chairs. Gift 5, 10 pounds of aged wine. Gift 6, 2,000 pounds of coal stone. As the remaining boxes were opened, the 6 betrothal gifts displayed, everyone inside the room was stunned, their expressions frozen in place. Cotton cloth, made from bamboo silk. If I remember correctly, the camp supply department recently set the price at 20 contribution value points per meter. 2 longswords alone are 600 contribution value points. Aged wine can't trade for less than 80 points per pound, £10 is 800 points. Beast tooth-carved chairs, I've seen them. Slightly less exquisite than the ones in the leader's room, but still 40 points for one. 6 is 240 points. £2,000 of coal stone. That's 100 contribution value points. So the first item, the beast meat, is the cheapest of the 6. These 6 betrothal gifts add up to about 2,000 points. Hiss, these gifts are way too much. 2,000 points. The hunting team would take 2 to 3 months to earn that. After a long silence, the room suddenly filled with animated discussion. The crowd's emotions shifted from shock at the betrothal gifts to envy toward Xiao Qingcheng's family, with most of the women exhibiting intense envy in their eyes, while the few unmarried ones were filled with longing. The betrothal gifts are too much, absolutely not, sir. Xia Chuan, I cannot accept these things. Xiao Qingcheng jumped up from his chair with a start, disregarding his wife Lin Lan tugging at his arm, and directly refused Xia Chuan's betrothal gifts. To be honest, he certainly wanted these things, especially the aged wine. Last time Xiao Yuan exchanged a pound and gave him a taste, he'd been thinking about the flavor for days, waiting to save more contribution value points to trade again. Now, with £10 given, how could he not want them? Chapter 387. Chapter 190, Xia Li, 4 articles, someone is coming /2. But out of nowhere, how can he accept it? That's right, just like everyone else in the camp, and indeed everyone in the ice abyss world, marrying off daughters doesn't count for much in Xiao Qingcheng's heart. Father-in-law, stay calm, listen to me first. Xia Chuan also stood up, smiled and reassured him, then continued. These 6 gifts are just the formality of my proposal. How to handle them is entirely up to you. The contribution value spent on this bride price is not much for me, but it's definitely not low either. It shows my regard for Xiao Ning and Xiao Yu. If you don't accept it, then you're rejecting my proposal. How to handle it is entirely up to you. Showing regard for his 2 daughters. These 2 sentences made Xiao Qingcheng's eyes light up slightly. Many around also instantly realized it and nodded slightly. Contribution points are neither high nor low for Xia Chuan. The Cloud Jiao team is currently the leading team of the hunting department, and as the captain, Xia Chuan surely earns a lot of contribution points each month. The value of these 6 gifts indeed reflects his seriousness about the proposal. The key is, how to handle it is entirely up to Xiao Qingcheng. Then it's even better, at worst, just let the daughters take it with them when they get married. After Xia Chuan finished speaking, he took the book from Qiu Peng's hands and, facing the rest in the room, continued. Everyone, the leader said that the specification of these 6 gifts does not vary by value, as long as it covers the 6 essentials of clothing, food, shelter, travel, arms, and drink. The quantity is up to personal ability. I don't want to become the villain delaying everyone's marriage. Hearing Xia Chuan's jest, everyone realized it and burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, indeed, just a formality. One should act within one's means. Ha ha ha, I said, if everyone were like this, our camp's resources wouldn't be sufficient. Lord Minister marrying 2 at once, of course, the gifts should be substantial. Ha ha ha. Did you hear that? Lord Minister has the skill to gather so much. Get lost, I never said I wanted it. Ha ha ha. The slight bickering of several couples made everyone burst into laughter, instantly warming the atmosphere of the entire hall. Lord Minister was that Xia Li personally compiled by the leader. But a few sharp-minded ones, recalling what Xia Chuan just said, immediately asked about the book in his hand. Others, hearing this, also quieted down, curiously looking at Xia Chuan. Finally, someone asked about this. Xia Chuan relaxed a little, smiling at everyone, raised the book in his hand, nodded, and said loudly, "That's right, this Xia Li was personally compiled by the leader." The leader said that without rules there can be no standards. Without ritual and ceremony there is no order. We humans, unlike the deceitful monsters and cold beasts, have formed camps to keep warm and thus should have our own civilization and system. Although we cannot retrieve the advanced civilization of the ancient abyss era, we should create our set anew. This Xia Li currently has only 4 parts, namely camp, ritual, hunt, and cultivation. The camp section standardizes all the titles of positions within the 6 ministries of the Daxia camp, and clearly delineates the various responsibilities unique to each role. The ritual section encompasses topics like marriage, funeral, sacrifice, and custom, used to regulate our Daxia people's conduct and daily activities. Today's dowry offering, future bride welcoming, and the act of marriage itself are all contents of the marriage section. Consider today as me giving you a template. The hunting section, as the name implies, relates to the regulation of hunting behavior, including who can hunt, where to hunt, preparatory work and things to be aware of before and after a hunt, all explained in detail. The cultivation section regulates our practices in areas such as logging, digging, cold resistance, and even the yet unknown Xianyang level, exploring methods of cultivation across different stages, power levels, and corresponding titles, providing a basic framework. Xia Chuan introduced the 4 parts of Xia Li with a brief explanation all at once. Observing the confused looks in people's eyes, he remembered what his elder brother had said and sighed inwardly. The civilization of the ice abyss world has fallen for too long, so long that apart from some rules passed down through generations, everything else has been forgotten. Trying to regulate everyone with a single Xia Li is impossible. Only through subtle influence and long-term integration can the content within truly become part of their lives. Is civilization and enlightenment really so important? A trace of perplexity flashed in Xia Chuan's eyes. In his view, these long and complex rules devised by his elder brother might not have any practical effect in the present and could even cause trouble for the camp. At the very least, once these rituals are popularized, the consumption of resources will increase. What benefits come from it? Despite his doubts, Xia Chuan's natural trust in Xia Hong kept him from thinking further. He looked up at everyone, ready to continue speaking, but was unexpectedly interrupted by someone's question. Lord Minister, in the future, will everyone in our camp have to strictly follow Xia Li in handling matters? Xia Chuan was momentarily stunned upon hearing this, then immediately shook his head and said, "No, Xia Li is not mandatory. For the marriage rites, for example, my proposal process today does not require everyone to follow the same way. You can continue as before." Then what's the use of Xia Li? Another person asked aloud. Chapter 388, Chapter 190, Xia Li 4 articles, someone is coming /3. Upon hearing this question, a peculiar expression appeared on Xia Chuan's face. Someone actually asked, "My brother really is foresighted. What use is the Xia Li? That's a good question. If you ask me, it doesn't have much use." As soon as Xia Chuan said it was useless, everyone looked at each other, some confused. But then he shifted his tone and continued loudly. "But it will be the fundamental difference between our great Xia and other camps. The ice abyss world is vast, not to mention other places. Just near Twin Dragon Mountain, there are countless camps, not to mention the northern regions of 5-8 Mountain, Pinxi Plain, Long Mountain boundary, and south of Xing River, east of Twin Dragon Mountain, where Mo Mountain is located. Human camps are innumerable. With so many camps, what is the difference between us and them? What is the difference between Great Xia and them? The difference lies in this volume of Xia Li in my hand. We adhere to Xia Li. We act with procedures, our hearts hold systems. Everything is based on rules and rituals to follow, which is why we are Daxia people. This is our distinction from the barbarians. We are no longer a camp that only knows how to forage and survive in ice abyss world, but a camp that has its own rights, rules, and systems, or you could say, its own civilization. As Great Xia grows and expands in the future, this power of civilization will continue to expand and strengthen through the hands of all of us, spreading in all directions, relighting the flame of human civilization across the entire ice abyss world. As Xia Chuan's words fell, the hundreds of people inside and outside the house were already silent, with emotions clearly affected. A faint glimmer of light appeared in their eyes, and they gradually became excited and invigorated. Seeing everyone's reaction, Xia Chuan was not surprised. When he heard these words from Xia Hong 3 days ago, he felt the same way. To be precise, it was only after repeating these words in full that Xia Chuan truly felt the powerful infectiousness contained in every word. We follow Xia Li, and therefore we are Daxia people. Such a simple sentence, yet it had an inexplicable power, prompting a sense of sacredness as a Daxia person within Xia Chuan. Even as the Lord, he was like this, so what about others in the camp? Everyone remained standing in place, not coming back to their senses for a long time. Seeing such a strong reaction from everyone, Xia Chuan exchanged a glance with Qiu Peng beside him, and a smile appeared in both of their eyes. This small-scale lecture today was just a preview. As the wedding proceeds as planned, Others in the camp will surely know about Xia Li's existence, and then it will be logical to spread Xia Li. Father-in-law, it's settled then. The wedding will be held on the second floor of the wooden building, 3 days later, that is, on the 8th day of May. I will come to pick up the bride half an hour before dawn. How about that? Good, good, that's settled then. Xiao Kingcheng was still immersed in the words just now, and was only brought back by his mother-in-law Lin Lan beside him, quickly nodding in response. Half an hour before dawn, we can still make it right. Hearing the voices around, Xia Chuan smiled and said, the wedding will be held after dawn. At that time the wooden building will be closed. Anyone from the camp can come to visit. No one will be refused, just afraid that the hall can't accommodate so many people. Everyone will have to seize a spot in advance. The crowd burst into laughter upon hearing this, each expressing with great interest that they would definitely grab a seat and enjoy the excitement. Watching everyone cheering, Xia Chuan's face was also full of smiles. The goal of his wedding was very clear, to set a model for everyone in the camp, so naturally, as many people as possible should come. Now, however, there were too many people in the camp, more than 20,000, and one main hall couldn't accommodate them all. It was necessary to prepare well to avoid any accidents. Thinking of this, Xia Chuan did not linger any longer, leaving with Qiu Peng and the others to make the preparations ahead of time. Congratulations, Brother Xiao, on gaining such a fine son-in-law. Lord taking your daughter as his bride, Brother Xiao, congratulations. These 6 gifts, probably few in the whole camp can afford them, Brother Xiao. You have gained great honor today, congratulations. Oh, not at all, mutual joy, ha ha ha. Hearing the familiar congratulations in his ears, Xiao Kangcheng, though modest with his words, never stopped smiling. His mood naturally soared to the utmost. Jing Valley at dawn. Since no one had lived there for more than a month, the more than 30 houses in Jing Valley were basically abandoned. However, since the end of last month, when Xia Chuan appointed Yue Feng as the station chief of Jing Valley and left Yuan Dao and the other 5 hunting teams there, things began to change. In the very center of Jing Valley, 7 houses have been cleaned up, with some beast bones piled up at the doors, clearly long lived in. The middle house on the right had its door open. Yuan Dao stepped out of the door, grimacing in the cold light outside the house, but after just over an hour, he couldn't withstand it and retreated indoors again. Okay, the director is a bit stronger than me. I can only withstand it for half an hour at most. Old Meng can too, about an hour. I've just started reshaping skin, can't even last 5 minutes. By the door inside, Han Guang, Han Tian, Zhu Ling, Zhu Yuan, Meng Yi, along with Yue Feng, 6 people in total, were gathered around a coal stove. Seeing Yuan Dao come in with a large blue patch on his body, they couldn't help but tease. Among the 6, Yue Feng couldn't join the conversation, as he had not yet entered the stage of reshaping skin like Yuan Dao and the others, able to briefly appear under sunlight, so he could only watch the others with a look full of envy. Chapter 389, Chapter 190, Xia Li 4 articles, someone is coming /4. Is this reshaping skin stage really that magical, that one must complete it perfectly to be fully exposed to the light? Is there no exception? Zhu Yuan's question made everyone curiously look at Yuan Dao. Among them, only Yuan Dao had the deepest understanding of the cold resistance level. With a father who was a cold resistance level warrior, Yuan Dao clearly had a certain understanding of this issue. After pondering for a moment, he said, there are no exceptions. Even if you wrap your entire body, you cannot be exposed to the sun outside. In the ice abyss world after dawn, not only the light carries a chill, but the air as well. The so-called leakless realm of skin actually means you can control the pores on your skin to lock in your internal aura, preventing the external chill from penetrating your body and retaining your internal temperature. This is what cold resistance level is all about. Look outside. Sunlight doesn't always penetrate everywhere. It sometimes gets blocked by trees or mountains. If it were as simple as just avoiding sunlight to move around during the day, we'd have plenty of solutions. Upon hearing this, everyone suddenly realized. Yue Feng had a sudden change in expression and asked, so, you mean the cold resistance level just grants one the qualification to operate during the day, but not to be under sunlight anytime, is that correct? Exactly. After a moment of thought, Yuan Dao gave a firm answer. But this answer left Yue Feng and the others momentarily stunned. The six of them simultaneously turned their gaze toward the roof of the wooden house on the left, all with confused and puzzled expressions. Following their gaze, Yuan Dao's expression suddenly froze. On the roof of the middle house, Xia Hong, dressed in black, was sitting cross-legged, with the cold sun's rays almost perfectly enveloping his entire body. This scene clearly contradicted what he just said. For this period, as long as it's daytime, the leader always sits cross-legged meditating there. According to you, isn't the leader at the cold resistance level? Isn't the next level after cold resistance the visible Yang realm? Has the leader broken through? Upon hearing the group of six's inquiry, Yuan Dao was also full of confusion. Xia Hong most likely hasn't broken through to the Xianyang level. Others might not be aware, but he was fairly certain. Because the current Xia Hong gave him a feeling not much different from He Yuanhun back then. He could sense that Xia Hong's strength was potentially just a notch stronger than He Yuanhun's, but not to the extent of being an entirely different realm. He couldn't explain this situation either. After thinking for a moment, he shook his head and said, "I'm not clear about the leader's situation. Supposedly, only a strong person at the visible Yang realm could expose themselves under the sun so recklessly, but even Yuan Dao with such extensive knowledge couldn't explain it, let alone the others. Everyone could only attribute this abnormality to Xia Hong's inherent uniqueness. As a result, their gazes naturally became more reverent. Xia Hong, sitting cross-legged on the roof with eyes closed, revealed a faint smile. The discussions below naturally did not escape his ears. Why could he appear under the sun so blatantly? Xia Hong actually had an answer in his heart. Initially, he wasn't sure, but now he could basically confirm he was an exception. This exception is likely based on a perfectly reshaped skin. My skin's defensive capabilities far surpass that of normal cold resistance level, so much so that the chill in the sunlight cannot penetrate. If nothing unexpected happens, my skin's defensive capabilities should be comparable to that of the Xianyang level. It's just my strength. I'm not sure how it compares to a true Xianyang level. Xia Hong slightly opened his eyes, looked up at the cold sun in the sky, and felt the blood and flesh beneath his skin slowly reshaping, his expression both excited and troubled. He was excited because he seemed to have found a way to boost strength beyond the cold resistance level. The next stage after reshaping skin should be regenerating flesh. By allowing cold light to enter the skin, it can achieve an effect of first damaging the body, then employing self-healing power to regenerate flesh. What troubled him was that basking in the sun to practice was really too slow. If he truly practiced in this manner, Xia Hong estimated it might take decades to complete the entire process. If nothing goes wrong, effort should still be focused on high-level cold beasts. While contemplating, Xia Hong suddenly looked up, gazing toward the northern valley entrance. His brows slightly furrowed, revealing a hint of displeasure before speaking sternly. "Since you're here, stop hiding." Someone had arrived. Below, Yuan Dao, Yue Feng, and the others were stirred awake by Xia Hong's voice. They quickly got up and stood by the door, looking toward the north. Chapter 390. Chapter 191. Repel the enemy and punish the first wedding. From the north, a fierce wind swept in. Yuan Dao, Yue Feng, and the other 7 people stood at the doorway but could still feel the power of the fierce wind. The 7 of them felt their eyes blur for a moment. Nothing seemed to have happened. Yet, when they looked up again towards the roof where Xia Hong was sitting, their expressions changed instantly. Across from Xia Hong, at some unknown point, a man had appeared. A middle-aged man. He was burly, with broad features and an overbearing presence in his eyebrows, dressed in snow-white clothes that sharply contrasted with Xia Hong's silky black attire, holding a dark, yard-long spear. Chen Yingyuan, the great leader of the hive camp, has actually come directly. Yue Feng, inside the wooden building, immediately recognized the identity of the middle-aged man. No wonder the resemblance to Chen Yingbo was uncanny. However, there were still significant differences. The domineering aura of the man in front of them seemed to seep into his bones. Since his appearance, he hadn't uttered a word, yet an inexplicable oppressive feeling lingered. At these words, Yuan Dao and the others nearby displayed a serious expression. Xia Hong and his group had stayed here from the first day of the month to the 5th, worried that people from the hive camp might come to cause trouble. They hadn't seen any activity for 5 days and thought everything was fine. Unexpectedly, the leader Chen Yingyuan had come personally. Not only the 7, but over 100 people in the 6 hunting teams remaining in Jing Valley were also awakened by Xia Hong's earlier voice, yet none of them dared step out of the wooden houses, only observing from the shadows inside. Behive Chen Yingyuan. Upon hearing the middle-aged man on the roof addressing Xia Hong with cupped hands, Yuan Dao and the 7 others focused intently, not daring to make a sound. On the roof, hearing this somewhat redundant self-introduction, Xia Hong's gaze remained calm. His displeasure was unchanged, and he glanced slightly towards the northern valley entrance before continuing to watch the middle-aged man quietly. Having spoken first, yet receiving no response, the middle-aged man did not seem annoyed. Instead, his eyes gradually lit up with fire, and the hands holding the spear trembled slightly. "Leader Xia Hong, forgive me." With these 7 words, Chen Yingyuan's sturdy figure instantly vanished from his original spot, turning into a violent gale rushing fiercely towards Xia Hong. The fierce wind roared, sweeping up a snow mist over 3 stories high, and below, Yuan Dao and the others' faces were shocked, their eyes full of awe. So fast. With such speed can he almost fly. More terrifying is the power. Look at that snow mist, not one piece was left intact. The leader seems not to move yet. Will there be a problem? They couldn't catch Chen Yingyuan's body, only the pervasive snow mist completely covering Xia Hong's figure, and seeing Xia Hong still motionless within the snow mist, they couldn't help but worry. On the roof, Xia Hong looked at the all-encompassing snow mist, his expression still calm as a deep well, with just his right hand placed on the hilt of his yi blade at his waist, watching calmly ahead. In the snow mist, a point of cold light suddenly appeared in Xia Hong's pupils. That cold light pierced through the snow mist. In an instant, it was only 3 inches from his forehead. The violent force scattered the surrounding snowflakes, and behind the cold light, the spear shaft, and following the spear shaft, Chen Yingyuan himself appeared completely in front of Xia Hong. Swoosh! Tiny snow grains were pierced by the condensed spear tip. The terrifying force rubbing against the air released high heat, causing the cold air around the spear tip to stagnate and vaporize, forming a visible airwave spear edge. Clang! However, the spear edge did not pierce Xia Hong's forehead as expected. The sound of metal clashing exploded out. Everyone, including Chen Yingyuan holding the spear, had their gazes fixed. The thin yi blade had, unknown when, been drawn by Xia Hong from his waist, the right hand lifted vertically in front of his face, precisely intercepting the spear tip with the blade face. It's known that Xia Hong's yi blade had a blade face at its widest only about an inch. In such a short time, not only did he draw the blade, but he also blocked the spear edge with such precision. This can only mean one thing. From the moment Chen Yingyuan got up to the subsequent series of actions, in the leader's eyes nothing was hidden, all seen through. That snow mist likely only blocked our view. The leader even saw in advance which part he would attack. Doesn't that mean those previous movements he made in the leader's eyes were no different from a clown? Below the wooden house, Yuan Dao and the 7 others, after a heated discussion, looked at Xia Hong with even more awe and fanaticism. Not only no different from a clown, it's simply showing off in front of a master. Just look at the leader's hand gripping the blade. At Yue Feng's hint, everyone's gazes turned to Xia Hong's right hand. At this sight, the 7 of them shuddered in unison, pupils filled with shock. Xia Hong's yi blade was held vertically with one hand. He didn't rely on any external force. Even after blocking the spear tip, Xia Hong's body didn't move. His right hand remained in its original position, without the slightest tremor. In contrast, the Chen Yingyuan opposite him held the spear with both hands, muscles all over his body swelling, his breath causing his clothes to flutter, and even after the spear tip collided with the blade, his body started trembling. The words effortless and exhausted were now fully realized in the eyes of all the earth-digging realm cultivators of the great Xia below. Chapter 391. Chapter 191. Repelling the enemy and punishment, the first wedding /2. 7 main power, this Chen Yingyuan, is actually not even as good as he Yuan Han. What is Xia Hong's true strength? How can it be so terrifying? The 2 people on the rooftop have completely different thoughts at this moment. Xia Hong was somewhat disappointed with Chen Yingyuan's strength, while Chen Yingyuan, deep within his eyes, was filled with overwhelming fear and a hint of regret due to Xia Hong's unfathomable power. Leader Xia Hong, even though a bit disappointed, seeing Chen Yingyuan so quickly concede, Xia Hong raised an eyebrow but still didn't give him a chance. He suddenly swung his yi blade horizontally as if to hack, and as Chen Yingyuan pulled back his spear and dodged, his left fist blasted ferociously onto Chen Yingyuan's shoulder like a cannon. Boom, crack. The bones cracked with a snap, and Chen Yingyuan's body flew backward 5 or 6 meters like a kite with a broken string. He planted his spear and pierced through the rooftop, finally stabilizing himself, but before he could stand firm, the blade came rushing towards him like lightning. Whoosh! Xia! The cold glint of the blade's edge reflected in his pupils. A chill ran down Chen Yingyuan's back, and he didn't dare to face it head-on. His legs broke through the rooftop beneath him as he retreated, poised to speak more, but he had just uttered one word when the slender blade slashed down vertically over his head. Unlike the spear's previous wind wave, the gust from Xia Hong's blade directly split the rooftop, which had only a large hole, cleanly from the middle to the sides. Boom! Chen Yingyuan raised his spear to block over his head. The clanging sound of the violent collision with the yi blade, although masked by the sound of the rooftop being torn apart, still reverberated throughout the wooden house, causing it to quiver. In the 6 wooden houses on either side, Yuan Dao and other 7 people, including members from the other 6 hunting teams, all had terrified expressions in their eyes. The wooden houses in Jing Valley, each could accommodate hundreds of people, yet these massive structures were made to tremble by the shockwave from the 2 men's clash. Boom, boom, clang, clang. Inside the wooden house, the confrontation between Xia Hong and Chen Yingyuan was no longer visible to the crowd. Only the sounds constantly emanating from within could be heard. Along with these sounds, the 4 walls of the wooden house exploded into large holes one after another, illustrating the intensity of their exchange. After more than 10 seconds, bang! The front wall of the wooden house was directly pierced by a long spear, and Chen Yingyuan scrambled out, covered in over 10 knife marks, his white clothes already in tatters, his face full of shock, looking utterly beaten. Not half a breath later, Xia Hong emerged from the wooden house as well. But he leaped onto the rooftop, holding a blade in one hand, looking down at Chen Yingyuan from above. Xia Hong's black clothes swayed slightly in the cold wind, not a hint of injury on his body, not to mention his expression remained as calm as ever. Gulp! Chen Yingyuan stood below, looking up at Xia Hong, swallowing hard. Even though he wanted to speak, recalling the close calls within the wooden house just now, narrowly escaping death, he forcibly restrained his desire to talk. His opponent's intention was clear, to not allow him to speak. Xia Hong stood on the rooftop, staring at Chen Yingyuan for a long time. A cold glint flashed in his eyes as he slightly raised his hand, pointing the blade tip at him. The moment the blade tip pointed at him, Chen Yingyuan's whole body went into an alarming state, his hair standing on end, veins bulging on the hands that gripped the spear, not daring to blink while staring at Xia Hong. But just then, Xia Hong's eyes narrowed and he suddenly turned his head to look north. 2 white figures, one ahead of the other, rapidly approached. In just a moment they were in front of the wooden house, standing on Chen Yingyuan's sides, one on each side. Xia Hong overlooked Chen Yingba on the left, his gaze fixed on the new face to the right, a slender man holding a longsword. The second leader, Wu Tianxing. As expected, all 3 cold resistance levels had arrived. Xia Hong scrutinized the 3 for a moment, saying nothing, only sheathed his yi blade again, then refocused his gaze on Chen Yingyuan. As soon as Chen Yingba and Wu Tianxing arrived, Chen Yingyuan's expression immediately relaxed, especially seeing Xia Hong sheath his yi blade, let out a long breath of relief. Then he abruptly turned his head. Smack! He slapped Chen Yingba hard on the face. Chen Yingba stood stunned after the slap, but quickly lowered his head without saying a word. Idiot, I told you to keep your bad temper in check, but you just wouldn't listen. Now you've hit the iron board, haven't you? Apologize to leader Xia Hong right now, ask for his forgiveness, and if there's a next time, even without leader Xia Hong's intervention, I'll have to personally take you out. Chen Yingba bowed his head, his expression unclear but still took a few steps forward, cupped his hands, bowed towards Xia Hong and said, I take full responsibility for this unauthorized entry into the Great Xia camp and actions against the people of Great Xia. I ask your magnanimity, leader Xia Hong, to forgive me this time. Chen Yingba promises it will never happen again. This sudden scene caused all the earth-digging realm members in the 6 wooden houses on both sides to be momentarily stunned. But soon, Realizing even the 3 cold resistance levels had to bow in submission in front of their leader, their expressions turned extremely exhilarated. This is the leader's strength. So powerful. Only Yuan Dao, Yue Feng, and a few others had slightly more serious expressions after thinking deeply about Chen Yingyuan and the others. Meanwhile, Xia Hong on the rooftop, upon hearing Chen Yingba's apology, showed no surprise on his face, nor did he respond, keeping his gaze fixed on Chen Yingyuan. Chapter 392, Chapter 191, Repelling the Enemy and Punishment, the First Wedding /3. He remained silent, and Chen Yingba below could only continue to bow. Chen Yingyuan dared not speak further, and as for Wu Tangxing beside him, he wouldn't even dare to say anything. The 4 of them remained silent for over 10 breaths. Then Xia Hong extended his right hand, pointing at Chen Yingba in front, and slowly spoke to Chen Yingyuan. This matter ends here. I already told him last time, 10 miles north of Jing Valley, people from your hive camp shouldn't trespass. This time the 3 of you ventured in. Those 10 or so cuts on your body, consider them as punishment. Of course, you can continue to trespass in the future, but I will patrol this area irregularly. If I catch you, it's best if all 3 of you are present. Otherwise, you know the consequences yourself. Chen Yingyuan's face momentarily froze in a gesture of goodwill, but quickly turned into a smile, cupping his hands as he said, "Thank you, Leader Xia Hong, for your generosity. I will make sure to restrain my own people once I return, and ensure they do not trespass into the territory of Great Xia." After saying this, he directly pulled Chen Yingba along, and the 3 of them turned around, leaving northward without looking back. They are just leaving. Nonsense, didn't you see the leader's strength? I bet if the other 2 had come any later, that Chen Yingyuan might have died at the leader's hands. 3 at the cold resistance level can only submit. Just how strong is the leader? Visible Yang realm perhaps, I guess it's just like that. In the 6 wooden houses, over 100 earth-digging realm individuals instantly erupted in heated discussion. In the wooden house on the right, Yuan Dao and his 7 companions had just sat back around the stove, only to find Xia Hong had also entered from outside. Greetings, leader. The 7 quickly stood up to salute, their eyes filled with fervor. Sit down, everyone. Xia Hong gestured slightly, inviting the 7 to sit, and he himself took a seat in the center position by the stove. Leader, that Chen Yingyuan is no good. Originally, he probably intended to show off strength, but upon realizing his own inadequacy, he immediately changed his demeanor, deliberately putting on a show of self-injury to gain your sympathy. As soon as Yue Feng sat down, he couldn't help but remind Xia Hong. Xia Hong smirked and nodded, a hint of approval on his face. Indeed, in the ice abyss world, it ultimately boils down to strength. Yue Feng and the other 7 nodded at his words, their expressions becoming a bit more solemn. Chen Yingyuan brought along 2 at the cold resistance level, clearly with ulterior motives. If Xia Hong's strength had been lacking today, the outcome might have been very different. Chen Yingyuan is indeed flexible. Seeing the unfavorable situation, he immediately played the self-injury card, probably fearing leaving evidence and worried we might target the beehive, which explains why Yuanhun hasn't dared to reach into Flimsy Plain for years. Upon hearing Xia Hong's words, everyone's expression stiffened slightly. Especially Yuan Dao. Thinking of the Long Yu alliance behind Chen Yingyuan, he suddenly nodded and said, "The leader is correct. I also heard my father mention that Chen Yingyuan has been very strict with his people over the years, and not a single conflict has occurred with us. Yunhan wanted to make a move on the beehive a few years back but never dared due to the Long Yu alliance's strength." Long Yu alliance. Xia Hong turned to look towards Flimsy Plain, furrowing his brow slightly. The exact strength of the hive camp, he was unsure. But he had an idea about these 3 leaders. If the 3 of them teamed up, he wasn't entirely confident he could defeat them. But for them to defeat him, it was completely impossible. So, regarding top-level power, it could be said that Great Xia completely outmatches the hive. And with the martial arts hall and ample supply of cold beast meat, the number of earth-digging realm practitioners is merely a matter of time for Great Xia. Even if currently not as numerous as the hive, they would soon catch up. Therefore, in terms of strength, it's entirely feasible for him to extend his reach into Flimsy Plain. The only concern is that Long Yu alliance. Being able to absorb the hive camp and 11 other bases at a conservative estimate, their strength is certainly on par with them, possibly even stronger. If the 12 camps are truly as united as Yuan Dao says, strictly prohibiting other camps from intervening in Pingxi Plain, then Great Xia must consider it carefully. Let's not worry about it for now. Arrow Bamboo Forest hasn't been fully explored. There are vast areas in Redwood Ridge waiting for us, a large section of 5-8 Mountain, and the territory north of Xing Valley. There's plenty of places to explore, and until we've clarified the strength of the Longyu Alliance, we can postpone dealing with Pingxi Plain. After Xia Hong finished speaking, Yuan Dao and the others all nodded. Indeed, Great Xia currently has many directions to expand. One Pingxi Plain is not that crucial. Once the strength is sufficient to crush the Longyu Alliance, it won't be too late to think about Pingxi Plain. I gave Chen Yingyuan a tough hit just now. If nothing unexpected happens, Jing Valley should be peaceful for a while. After Xia Hong spoke, he looked at Yue Feng and said, "From now on, you'll lead the Mountain River team to guard Jing Valley. Those going to Arrow Bamboo Forest to collect, explore, or hunt, if they run out of time or don't want to return, can rest here. As for those 2 iron mines, make sure to secure them too. There's no need for those who come to mine to make multiple trips. They can accumulate a few days' worth and transport it all at once." Establishing a base isn't simple. It requires preparing supplies and constructing the location, all of which need to be discussed with Xia Chuan by Yue Feng. Xia Hong is merely providing a concept for now. "I understand, leader. I will definitely guard Jing Valley well." Xia Hong nodded slightly, saying, "Yuan Dao your 5 squads. If there's nothing special, you don't need to stay here." Chapter 393. Chapter 191. Repelling the Enemy and Punishment, the First Wedding /4. "Yes, Chief. I'll head back to camp first." Xia Hong left a word, then turned around and walked straight out of the house. As he reached the door, he seemed to remember something, turned back and said to Yue Feng, "Oh right, remember to go back on the 8th. There's a lively event in the valley waiting for you all." The 8th, a lively event. First year of the Great Xia, May 8th. The last half hour before dawn. Usually at this time, everyone just returned and was preparing to rest. But today was different. In the valley, 3 bonfires were lit, and the wooden houses were brightly illuminated, with people coming and going, bustling with excitement. "The wedding procession is coming, the wedding procession is coming." A loud voice echoed through the wooden building, and many people rushed eagerly to the 3rd floor upon hearing it. Room number 96 on the 3rd floor, west side. Xiao Qingcheng and Lin Lan, along with their son Xiao Hen, stood at their door. The 3 of them wore brand new beast skin clothing just exchanged from the camp supply department, their faces full of smiles, looking both expectant and somewhat wistful. "The wedding procession is coming." Hearing the voice from the hallway, the 3 quickly looked up. "Ha ha ha, Lord, this clothing is really festive. This bright red is really eye-catching. I've never seen such red before. Ha ha ha, how did this color come about? It's just too red. I heard it's made by grinding red frost tree into powder and then dyeing it with water. It's indeed eye-catching, but it looks very festive." Hadahata. Before seeing Xia Chuan, laughter came from the end of the hallway. The Xiao Kangcheng couple seemed to know something, and their expressions became a bit strange, while the others around their door were puzzled and became curious about Xia Chuan's attire today. After more than 10 breaths, the crowd finally approached. Hadahata. Hadahata. When Xia Chuan stepped out from the crowd, those gathered around Xiao Kingcheng's door burst into laughter upon seeing his clothes. Xia Chuan was not wearing his usual black cloak today. Instead, he donned a slightly more fitting outfit. The material was obviously extraordinary, with a shimmering exterior, reminiscent of the black clothes worn by Chief Xia Hong. Extraordinary material alone wasn't enough to cause such laughter among the crowd. The issue was that Xia Chuan's outfit was red. Even though there were many white striped patterns on the outfit, the overall bright red was still too eye-catching. Coupled with Xia Chuan's slightly awkward expression, it looked amusing, making everyone laugh even louder. There were many colors of clothing in the camp now, and red was not uncommon, but it was mostly worn by women or children. A grown man wearing all red was unprecedented, and naturally, it delighted everyone. "Father-in-law, I've come to fetch the bride." All right, Hanger, quickly go bring out your 2 sisters." With a face full of smiles, Xiao Kangcheng instructed his son, and seeing Xia Chuan in that striking red, couldn't help but laugh as well. Hadahata. As this father-in-law laughed, the others laughed even louder. Hadahata. But soon, as Xia Hong escorted his two sisters out on either side, the laughter of the crowd immediately halted. All eyes focused on Xia Ning and Xia Yu, and a hint of amazement appeared in their eyes, leaving them momentarily stunned. The same bright red worn by Xia Chuan was laughable, but on Xia Ning and Xia Yu, it was completely different. The fiery red long dresses beautifully accentuated their exquisite figures. The two sky blue ribbons made of fine frost wolf fur crisscrossed on their chests, adding a touch of elegance to the outfit. Each wore a pair of dainty and exquisite red cloth shoes. With a layer of red cloth covering their heads, they couldn't see their path, making their steps very light, which added to their charm to the fullest. How beautiful! This outfit is so pretty. The shoes are lovely too, and those ribbons are gorgeous. Isn't this the wedding dress mentioned in the Xia? Yes, it's the wedding dress, the red veil meant for brides. If the men present were stunned by their beauty, then the women in the crowd, almost without exception, all had eyes lit with admiration. Whether married or not, they looked enviously at the dresses on Xia Ning and Xia Yu, their eyes gradually filled with longing. Sigh. Yue Feng, amidst the crowd, felt a pinch at his waist and grimaced. Turning to see his wife Lin Wan's resentful eyes, he began to sweat profusely. We've been married for so long already, don't dwell on this. When Yuan grows up and gets married, his wife can surely wear this dress, right? Lin Wan pouted but let her husband go. The thought that her son would grow up and marry, with a wedding just as lively, finally brought a smile to her face. Yue Feng was just an example. Many married men in the crowd were similarly pinched by their wives. As for those unmarried, the pressure naturally increased. Don't worry, everyone. I found out that the wedding dresses and groom's outfits, the craftsman department made 5 each. Anyone getting married in the camp in the future can use contribution value to rent them. Rest assured, all the ladies in the camp will definitely be able to wear them. A quick-witted young man in the crowd noticed the anticipation on the surrounding women's faces and hurriedly explained. However, before the women's smiles faded, he added, I'm talking about the unmarried ladies, not those already married, unless you marry twice. Pshaw. Hu Peng, you can't say anything nice. You're the one who's getting married twice. Hadayohafa. Seeing Hu Peng being chastised by a crowd of women, laughter erupted among the crowd. Leaving aside the banter, Xia Chuan completed the wedding procession and took the two brides straight to the main hall on the second floor to finish the final marriage ceremony. The main hall on the second floor was already filled with the rich aroma of meat and wine. With over 20,000 people in the camp, almost everyone got a bite of beast meat cooked with salt, and those in the earth-digging realm each tasted a small cup of aged wine. The chief said that all today's expenses are on him, not just tonight. For the next 10 newlywed couples, the same standards as tonight will apply. Everyone, enjoy the food and drink, we're about to begin the ceremony. With delicious food and wine, and the appearance of Chief Xia Hong, especially with Yuan Cheng announcing Xia Hong's decision, the wedding atmosphere rose to another level. First bow to the great Xia. Second bow to the parents. The couple bow to each other. Ceremony concluded, the couple crowns each other, may they be united forever. The first wedding of the great Xia concluded in an extremely lively manner. Xia Hong tried his best to complete all the wedding procedures based on his memory. To perfectly replicate everything was certainly impossible. Watching Xia Chuan crown each other with his two wives, Xia Hong felt gratified and also took note of the reactions of others in the main hall. Envy, anticipation, yearning, deep thought. Judging from these reactions visible in the hall, the first wedding of the great Xia undoubtedly was a major success. This can be considered the first step in establishing the Xia Li. With this start, things will be easier to handle afterward. Chapter 394, Chapter 192, Beehive Predicament, Surge in Earth-Digging Realm. 3 days ago, on the 5th day of May in the first year of the Great Xia, 10 miles outside the northern side of Jing Valley, 3 somewhat hurried figures finally stopped in the snow. Puff. Chen Yingyuan, having held on for a long time, as soon as he relaxed, the blood he'd been repressing in his throat burst out immediately. His body wobbled, and if it weren't for Chen Yingba and Wu Tianxing's timely support, he might have fallen straight to the ground. Elder brother, are you okay? Chief, are you all right? Chen Yingyuan waved slightly, indicating he was fine, then turned his head to look south, still with a trace of horror in his eyes. Originally, I thought that since He Yunhun got into trouble, we could take advantage and extend our reach to Arrow Bamboo Forest, but Xia Hong's power is so terrifying. I estimate that even if the three of us join forces, we might not be able to take him down. Upon hearing this, Chen Yingba lowered his head with both hatred and self-blame in his eyes. Wu Tianxing, standing aside, also showed a serious expression on his face and said that Xia Hong probably saw through us hiding in the back from the start. Judging by his final reaction, I suspect he had thoughts about leaving us behind but wasn't completely sure, so he didn't make a move. Saying this, he paused slightly and continued while looking at Chen Yingyuan. I think this person is not stupid. The chief's plans should be clear to him. This person seems even harder to deal with than He Yunhun. We've already fallen out with him. From now on, we should be more cautious. Hearing these words, a trace of regret appeared on Chen Yingyuan's face. Wu Tianxing's meaning was clear. The guy isn't stupid. The fact that he brought 2 cold resistance levels over and made the first move to test things was obvious to Xia Hong. From the moment he chose to probe, the conflict between the 2 camps was already set and could not be altered. If only he had directly apologized earlier, rather than being so greedy. Finally got rid of one tough guy, just thought things could be more comfortable, and out comes an even tougher one. I was confused. How can Xia Hong be this powerful? And additionally, Chen Yingyuan muttered to himself for a while, then suddenly thought of something, turned to Chen Yingba and asked sternly, "That great Xia camp, what's the story? Didn't you say that a year and a half ago they were just a mid-sized camp, and the leader must have come across some opportunity to become this strong, and that they barely had any in the earth-digging realm? Is that the case?" Not many in the earth-digging realm. Just now in those 6 wooden houses in Jing Valley, Chen Yingyuan sensed at least 100 presences in the earth-digging realm, some even 6 or 7, had started reshaping their skin. And this was just Jing Valley, not even their main camp. The intelligence Chen Yingba provided earlier didn't match any of that. How could Chen Yingyuan not feel angry? At this moment, Chen Yingba also had an angry expression on his face and said in a deep voice, "Brother, I'm not lying to you. This information was told to me by a team leader named Luo Ming in the hunting team. That Luo Ming joined the camp last year. He claimed to have come from a camp east of Redwood Ridge and had a decent relationship with the leader of the Great Xia camp. At that time, when I heard him say that Great Xia was so weak, I thought there must have been some accident at Mirror Immortal Camp, and this Great Xia just took advantage of it, so I came on my own." There was no need for Chen Yingba to continue explaining the subsequent situation. Upon hearing this, Chen Yingyuan did not speak, but lowered his head and pondered. He naturally trusted his blood brother Chen Yingba. The coincidence was that he vaguely remembered this Luo Ming. Was it that Luo Ming who joined the camp last year with 3 earth-digging realm individuals, totaling 12 people? If I remember correctly, he said back then that their Rojal camp was wiped out by a deceitful monster, and they barely escaped, right? Chen Yingba nodded and said, "That's right, brother, it's him." Wu Tianxing added at this time, "I know him too. This Luo Ming has quite some skill and seems to lead a hunting team. Among the 11 who came with him last year, 8 are already in the earth-digging realm, all in his team." Chen Yingyuan's brows furrowed even tighter. No matter how good Luo Ming's skills were, he was just a team leader under the Hive hunting team, likely not even reaching the limits of the earth-digging realm. How could someone like that be on good terms with Xia Hong, who almost killed him earlier? How is this possible? Either this Luo Ming lied, or this Xia Hong truly encountered some incredible opportunity, transforming from an earth-digging realm individual to such power in just a year and a half. Considering this possibility, a strong sense of greed rose within Chen Yingyuan, but it only lasted 3 or 4 breaths before the recent perilous encounter with Xia Hong flashed in his mind, and he quickly suppressed it. He had just barely survived. He couldn't indulge in fantasy any further. No matter what, this great Xia must not be provoked at any cost. We need to be even more cautious than with the Mirror Immortal camp. He Yunhun was personally intimidated by someone from Long Mountain in the past. Xia Hong was not. Who knows if he might suddenly turn on us at this critical juncture? Seeing his brother not finishing the sentence, Chen Yingba was somewhat puzzled. However, Wu Tianxing, evidently knowing something, asked in a low voice, "Chief, is the situation over at Long Mountain not good?" After pondering for a moment, Chen Yingyuan nodded and said, "Last month's Longshan Alliance had only 10 camps participating. This time, Zhejiang camp was even more excessive than last year. They didn't send a single person, blatantly disregarding Long Mountain. Chapter 395. Chapter 192, Beehive Predicament, Surge in Earth-Digging Realm /2. Wu Changxing's face turned grave upon hearing this, and he said slowly, "The Alliance hierarch is getting old, and there aren't many days left for him. Marquis Zhejiang, who is at the peak of his power, with the camp's strength growing daily. Having such mindset is understandable. But it's not just mindset. When I went along Mountain this time, I heard that Marquis Hu, through intimidation or bribery, has begun secretly persuading other camps to overthrow our old alliance leader and establish a Zhejiang alliance. Hiss, is the old alliance leader not dealing with him? Deal? How to deal with it? Now it's the eldest young master who has the final say in Long Mountain. The old alliance leader hasn't even appeared in person. If it weren't for the hidden sentries, I would think he might not even be alive anymore." Wu Changxing's expression flickered slightly, and he said in a low voice, "Chief, if it's really like this, then our camp must make plans early." Chen Yingyuan's brow furrowed, clearly understanding the meaning behind Wu Changxing's words. The Long Yu alliance has sustained itself for the past 15 years, in essence, due to the old alliance leader and his Long Mountain camp having enough strength to hold the fort. When the person is gone, politics falls. Once the old alliance leader is no longer here, relying solely on the eldest son. If the Long Yu alliance collapses and Chen Yingyuan hasn't found a backup plan ahead of time, the outcome for Hive Camp wouldn't be good. Enemies are on all fronts, north, west, and now a great Xia camp is emerging in the south, crucially unrestricted by the alliance treaty. Let me think about it first. That Marquis Hu is not a good person. The old alliance leader lent him grain and manpower back then to help him return and inherit Zhejiang camp, which was a great favor to him. It's only been 13 years, and with his strength, he immediately turns back to bite. Who would dare collaborate with such a person? Let's wait and see. Wu Changxing's expression first paused, then he asked, "What about the alliance leader order issued by the eldest young master? 10 pounds of jade bone, 5 million pounds of iron ore, and we also have to send a hostage over. Should we comply with all of it?" This question made Chen Yingyuan's face instantly darken. Chen Yingba was also aware of the alliance leader order and couldn't help but say angrily, "I think this eldest young master is just going mad. The old alliance leader doesn't have long to live, and the Long Yu alliance is clearly on the brink of collapse. He's still thinking of hoarding and exploiting. Isn't he forcing us 10 families to rebel? Big brother, in my opinion, we should just join under Marquis Hu." As soon as he said this, Chen Yingyuan's brow furrowed deeply. Wu Changxing remained silent, his gaze drifting elsewhere. "If things were truly that simple, you fool." Chen Yingyuan cursed inwardly, but he didn't have the heart to explain to his straightforward brother. He could only sigh deeply and said, "The alliance leader order gave a year's grace anyway. Hive Camp is the farthest from Long Mountain. Let's see what the other camps do first, then we'll decide." Saying this, he paused, glanced at Chen Yingba and continued, "Xia Hong is not to be trifled with. You, stay honest with the hunting team in the near future and don't come near Jing Valley." "Yes, big brother." Seeing Chen Yingba nod in agreement, he turned his gaze to Wu Changxing and said, "Old Wu, go and make contact with Luo Ming, see if you can gather more information about Great Xia. If suitable, see if we can re-establish trade relations. The territory of Mirror Immortal has been taken over by them, and the arrow bamboo forest is surely in their hands. Raw bamboo, silk, and snow bamboo are good resources on this side of Longyu. Try to get as much as possible. Oh, and iron ore and coal mines. They should also be in need of cold beast meat." Wu Changxing nodded in acknowledgement. First year of the Great Xia, May 18. The wooden building in the valley was once again filled with noise. "Who is getting married today?" "The 10th family, hurry and take a look." "Today it's Zhao Bao, captain of the Golden Eagle team." "It's the last family, right? Tonight we'll get another bowl of salted meat soup." "Tusk tusk, that meat soup smells so good, just thinking about it makes my mouth water." "That soup has salt added to it." "No wonder it smells so good. I heard that salt is made from grinding intermediate beast bone powder together with other herbs. Over at the camp supply department, it costs 500 contribution points per pound, an outrageous price that only the top-ranking hunting team captains can afford. Expensive as it is, its benefits are astonishing. I heard from some lords at the camp supply department that consuming salt over a long period can not only enhance one's cultivation talent but also increase longevity. Longevity. And the aged wine tastes great too. I went to inquire at the camp supply department yesterday, and guess how much contribution value 1 pound of aged wine costs? How much? It costs 100 points. Hiss, that is way too expensive. Expensive, but nothing can be done. Haven't you noticed over the past few days that many in the earth-digging realm receive aged wine but save it without drinking it, giving it to their own children or nephews in the logging realm? I heard it's because drinking aged wine can increase strength. Ever since Xia Hong announced that the following 10 newlywed couples would have their weddings conducted according to the standards of Xia Chuan's wedding night, the wooden building in the valley had been busy, with a new couple tying the knot every day. The most distressed about this situation was Qiu Peng, the camp supply department director. 10 weddings in 10 days, plus your own ceremony, Lord Chief. It's been 11 consecutive days. Our camp supply department has bled heavily. On the top floor of the wooden building, Xia Chuan, once again donning the black cloak, heard Qiu Peng's grievance and asked, "What used a lot of supplies?" Qiu Peng immediately nodded, opened the accounting book in his hand, and said with a worried face, "Over 20,000 people, and everyone except infants has a sip of meat soup. Each wedding consumes 30 pounds of salt, 1,500 pounds of beast meat, and 10 bottles of aged wine. If calculated by contribution value in these 11 days, the supplies spent by the camp supply department nearly reached 200,000. Chapter 396, Chapter 192, Beehive Predicament, Surge in Earth-Digging Realm /3. Beast meat is still fine. 1 gin of salt costs 500 points, and 1 gin of aged wine costs 100 points. These prices are per day as Qiu Peng described, so multiplying by 11 indeed amounts to over 180,000. As for salt, the camp supply department has just over 400 gin in total. With this half-month nearly used up, new salt hasn't come in, and apart from reserving some for the leaders, nobody else can exchange for any. The situation with aged wine is similar. Xia Chuan watched Qiu Peng's worried demeanor like a household head, and couldn't help but chuckle softly. With salt and aged wine prices so high, not many people have been able to exchange them. Lately, everyone's been saving their contribution points to build houses. Basically, no one's looking to trade them. Keeping them is just keeping them. Might as well share it with everyone and let them have a taste. Hearing this, Qiu Peng's eyes lit up and he laughed. True, besides the leaders, others can't even afford to exchange for salt or aged wine. The key is, within this half-month, we successfully spread the word about these two items. I noticed that many people from the hunting department have been eyeing the aged wine, asking about it every day, just reluctant to trade for it. Ha ha ha. Aged wine is indeed a good thing. The rich fragrance of the wine, warming the whole body with one gulp, can even enhance strength. Who could resist? Hearing the people from the hunting department inquire about aged wine yet were unwilling to exchange for it, Xia Chuan couldn't help but grin while shaking his head, thinking of their predicament. But immediately, he turned serious and said, "Consuming so many resources recently, the camp's strength must have improved significantly, right? All resource consumption can be converted into strength. Not to mention aged wine, salt, and beast meat. These 3 items are essential resources for enhancing strength. With 11 weddings consuming so much, it's reasonable to assume that the camp's strength has increased substantially recently." Qiu Peng responded with a revitalized demeanor, nodding and smiling. "Of course. It's almost been 2 months since those 3,000-plus troops from Mirror Immortal joined us, and it's been nearly a month since the people from 5-8 Mountain integrated. Over the past 11 days, these 3 items seem to have spurred everyone's potential, and more are breaking through." Upon saying this, Qiu Peng took out a roster from his body, flipped through a few pages, and continued excitedly. "As of yesterday, our camp has 792 individuals in the earth-digging realm, and even more in the logging realm, totaling 6,921 people. Moreover, from my observations at the martial arts hall during this period, within the next month, there should be more than 200 people who will gradually break through in the earth-digging realm. As for the logging realm, there's no doubt that the number will continuously rise. Within the next month, over 200 more will break through to the earth-digging realm. The martial arts hall is under Qiu Peng's management, with 200 people training daily, all subject to his approval. Naturally, his words carry high credibility. That means by July, Daxia Camp's earth-digging realm will surpass 1,000 in scale. Even the logging realm could reach 10,000. Xia expression flickered, both joyful and worried. No wonder Yuan Dao has approached me recently, saying he wants to further relax the limits on the number of hunting teams, as it seems there are more and more people in the earth-digging realm, and the current number of hunting teams is too few. Qiu Peng is also aware of this situation, nodding in agreement. Recently, only 7 new hunting teams have been added, totaling just 30 teams. As it stands now, nearly 200 people haven't joined any hunting team, which is a problem that needs solving. Currently, the maximum number of people in a low-level hunting team is 20, so with 30 full teams, that's 600 people. There are presently just over 200 additional, and more are surely to come. Xia frowned, realizing this problem is indeed hard to solve. Further raising the limit on numbers is certainly not feasible. Hunting is not warfare, and more people don't necessarily help. In fact, once numbers exceed a limit, it becomes harder to coordinate, and it may even attract hordes of cold beasts or even deceitful monsters. He himself has led teams out for hunts, so he understands well that for hunting low-level cold beasts, a team of 20 is already the limit. Adding more is not only a waste of manpower but unhelpful for the hunt and could even drag it down, severely reducing hunting efficiency. Sir, why not follow the leader's suggestion and set up a squad that doesn't need to hunt, dedicated to patrolling our great Xia territory? Hearing this, Xia appeared tempted but quickly shook his head, saying, "You're managing the camp supply department. You should be even clearer than I am about the accounts. Can the camp currently afford a non-working team?" Qiu Peng was momentarily at a loss hearing this, and after pondering, shook his head helplessly. "That's an oversight on my part. To be honest, the camp's beast meat is already facing a deficit, especially as those in the earth-digging realm increase. Beast meat consumption is rising daily. Without relying on the lead hunting teams, we might not even keep up with supply." Upon hearing this, Xia expression sharpened. "Right now, what is the daily consumption of cold beast meat in the camp, and what is the camp supply department's reserve amount?" Just from the logging and earth-digging realms, 35,000 jin are needed daily, amounting to 1.05 million jin per month. Adding in about 10,000 reserves, daily consumption is around 15,000, which totals 450,000 jin per month. We can temporarily ignore those under 6 as it's minimal. Just these two aspects combined tally up to 1.5 million jin monthly. Logging realm training requires 3 to 5 jin per day. Earth-digging realm requires 7 to 10 jin. Based on Qiu Peng's reported figures, when adjusted, it's roughly 35,000. Reserves based on basic strength have a daily allocation of 1 to 2 jin, roughly 15,000 for 10,000 people. So Qiu Peng's calculation is basically accurate. 1.5 million jin, calculating a yield ratio of 1,300 for a single low-level cold beast, means the camp currently has to hunt at least 1,200 cold beasts per month just to make ends meet. As it stands, there are only 30 hunting teams, meaning each team has to hunt 40 cold beasts per month to maintain the beast meat supply. This far exceeds the initial base minimum of 15 set for the team, almost thrice as much. After calculating everything in his mind, Xia frowned deeply. No wonder they say relying solely on a few leading teams barely keeps up with supply. This consumption rate is indeed alarming. But there's no helping it. Beast meat is crucial for the camp to continue strengthening. Unless the population is limited, the demand for beast meat will naturally keep rising. Reducing the beast meat quota isn't realistic, and limiting the population is even less feasible. Therefore, we must find a way to meet the demand. If there's not enough beast meat, we should continue to grow the teams and relax the conditions for creating new teams. Lower the basic strength requirement from 20,000 jin to 15,000 jin. This should suffice. On hearing this, Qiu Peng immediately nodded. This would indeed be more than sufficient. There aren't many with basic strength over 20,000 jin, but quite a few exceed 15,000. Many from the earliest groups of Great Xia have a qualifying basic strength, but if we do this, casualties during hunts might increase. Xia replied solemnly, "If casualties occur, there's no choice. Beast meat shortages are emerging across the camp, and taking some risks is warranted. They've reached this point of training thanks to the beast meat hunted by those before them. Now it's their turn to support the coming batches." Qiu Peng nodded in agreement, a hint of approval in his eyes. He himself grew stronger step by step, initially aided by the cold beast meat brought back by Xia Hong, and now his basic strength exceeds 20,000. By the way, are you still thinking of staying in my team? Something occurred to Xia Chuan, and he turned to Qiu Peng to ask. Qiu Peng grinned. I was just planning to bring it up. In fact, Qiu Peng had already met the basic strength requirement for forming a new hunting team a few days back, but staying in Xia Chuan's cloud, Zhao team earned him more contribution points, so he hadn't mentioned forming his own team. Clearly, now that won't work. The hunting department lacks squads, and as the camp supply department director, he should prioritize the camp's needs over personal gain, so he couldn't continue benefiting at Xia Chuan's expense. Xia Chuan acknowledged this with a nod, but then remembered something and extended his hand. Hold on a moment, I have a major operation the day after tomorrow. Wait until that's done before leaving the team. Qiu Peng was momentarily surprised, but quickly realized what Xia Chuan meant by the major operation, his expression showing a jolt of understanding. Of course, sir. Chapter 397, Chapter 193, The Army the Beast-Tide Little Snow Mane. Population really is the cornerstone. In the back of the main hall, after listening to the conversation between Xia Chuan and Qiu Peng, and realizing that they had left, Xia Hong, who was sitting cross-legged on a soft cushion, slowly opened his eyes. After a glimmer of light flashed through his left eye, he couldn't help but sigh. 1,000 people in the earth-digging realm. Who would have dared to imagine that in the early Great Xia? But now it is about to become a reality. And it's happening next month. If I remember correctly, on the 20th of last month, when the large group of people from 5-8 Mountain were all incorporated, the total number in the earth-digging realm was 431. In just 1 month, it almost doubled. Xia Hong observed this increase in the earth-digging realm. Only a small portion were from the original over 1,000 of Great Xia, while the vast majority were people from Mirror Immortal and 5-8 Mountain. It's not that the original 1,000 people of Great Xia had poor qualifications. Of course, individuals have varying talents, but when it comes to the group, as long as the living environment and resource endowment are equivalent, the corresponding potential is also similar. It should be noted that over 30% of the more than 1,000 people in Great Xia are in the earth-digging realm, so in terms of proportion, one could say the talent of these 1,000 people far surpasses the two groups of Mirror Immortal and 5-8 Mountain. But in reality, that's clearly not the case. Great Xia's supply of beast meat is far more abundant than the other two, which is the key reason why the proportion of those in the earth-digging realm is so much higher. When the two groups from Mirror Immortal and 5-8 Mountain joined in, they enjoyed the same ample supply of beast meat as the people of Great Xia. Many who had previously been stuck without breakthroughs, as well as some with outstanding talent, naturally broke through. The key to the spike in the earth-digging realm over the past month and more lies here. So Xia Hong says, population is the cornerstone. Cultivation is a matter of slow and steady progress, and it's impossible to achieve it overnight. In the logging realm and earth-digging realm, there's only so much beast meat available each day. Even if the camp has a martial arts hall that can enhance their cultivation efficiency, mass manufacturing of people in the earth-digging realm is impossible. It still requires the investment of a lot of time and resources to achieve the corresponding improvement and output. Population expansion is important, but the corresponding resource supply cannot be neglected. With just more than 23,000 people, the camp's hunting ability is already lagging behind a bit. It seems we need to settle for a while and cannot increase the population drastically. Otherwise, I, as the leader, will soon have to lead the people out for hunting again. Recalling what Qiu Peng just mentioned about the monthly consumption of beast meat, Xia Hong slightly shook his head. 1.5 million jin. It's fortunate that the Great Xia territory is ample enough, and that there's a treasure trove like Redwood Ridge. Otherwise, even if I, the leader, personally came out, I might not be able to gather so much beast meat. The resource problem is not yet solved, and the population can't be expanded for the time being. As for the army matter, that's even more wishful thinking. Xia Hong shook his head and pondered. Qiu Peng's recent proposal to establish a fully dedicated team, specifically for patrolling the camp, was something he had previously discussed with Xia Chuan. In fact, this is equivalent to the embryonic form of an army. Although Great Xia currently has a territorial domain, it does not have a dedicated armed force to protect its own territory. The people of the hunting department certainly count, but they are not fully committed and still have to focus on hunting cold beasts, just like before, stepping up when needed. Given the current terrifying consumption of beast meat at the camp, if the hunting department allowed even a slight relaxation, beast meat would likely become insufficiently supplied. Under such circumstances, Xia Hong naturally didn't entertain any further thoughts of building an army. Earlier, I heard from Luo Ming that Yang and Li were both scouts of the Imperial Army in Beishuo Town, which means that when the population exceeds 100,000, reaching the standard of a town-level camp, it should be eligible to form an army. Beishuo Town's Imperial Army. Xia Hong raised an eyebrow slightly, recalling the strength of Yang and Li, and couldn't help but feel a little uninterested in this army. To serve as scouts, their strength in the army should generally be considered decent, which means the army is likely composed of members from the earth-digging realm, but the exact number is unknown. Uninterest does not mean contempt. Being able to maintain a fully committed army, the strength of Beishuo Town is undoubtedly certain. A population of over 100,000 is also something beyond the reach of Great Xia at present. But it must be said that compared to then when they were in the dirt hills, over a year has passed, and now when Xia Hong thinks of Yang, Li, and the Beishuo Town behind them, his heart no longer stirs any waves. After all, he has confidence that, as long as Great Xia is given enough time, surpassing this so-called Beishuo Town and even the entire 9 towns of Mo Mountain will not be an issue. Why have so many people returned already? It's not even midnight yet. Xia Hong's brow furrowed as he suddenly looked up toward the outside of the main hall. Outside, a large number of people were rushing back to the valley. It was clearly only the first half of the night, and those who went out shouldn't be returning at this time. What's going on? Why have so many people returned? Beast Tide, there's a beast tide. It's news from the Jing Valley side. Beast Tide, there's no commotion outside the Redwood Ridge. The western side outskirts are fine. It should be the Arrow Bamboo Forest side. I heard it was Lord Yue Feng who sent people back to report, and many have returned. Direction of Arrow Bamboo Forest, the north. That's right. Upon hearing of the beast tide, Great Xia Valley immediately became restless. Don't panic, it's a beast tide from the Arrow Bamboo Forest far from us. That place has a beast tide once every 4 months, don't worry. Those cold beasts are all headed into the Arrow Bamboo Forest and won't come our way. Just stay away from the north side. Chapter 398. Chapter 193. The Army, the Beast Tide, Little Snow Mane /2. Soon, some people from the former Mirror Immortal camp spoke up to reassure the rest who were clueless. Upon learning that the cold beasts wouldn't come to the valley, everyone's emotions quickly stabilized, and the unrest in the crowd gradually subsided. No need to panic, there's nothing unusual around here. Everyone just avoid going north for the next few days. Xia Hong's booming voice echoed throughout the valley. After exchanging glances, everyone looked up at the 3rd floor of the wooden cabin, their expressions instantly calming down. Is that the leader's voice? It sounds like it's coming from the heavens. The leader is like a god. The leader is indeed a god. If he says there's no problem, there definitely won't be any problem. Just go about your business, just avoid the north. For these few days, stay active around the western outskirts. Xia Hongjing sat in the main seat of the grand hall on the 3rd floor. After calming the unrest in the valley, a slight frown appeared on her brow. The commotion revealed that the current system in Great Xia still had many imperfections. Supposedly, in case of trouble, someone should immediately come forward to reassure everyone, then assess the situation to determine if there's danger and whether preparations are needed. Without anything happening, the camp was already in panic, requiring her, the leader, to personally speak to calm things down. It inevitably felt like a makeshift operation. But there's no choice. Currently, even Xia Chuan, the minister, has to lead teams for hunting missions, not to mention the directors of the 6 ministries and the captains of various hunting teams. They generally set out as soon as night falls, and not even the craftsman department director Mu Dong is an exception. We still need to designate someone to manage the camp specially, so there isn't chaos like a flock of headless flies in the event of sudden circumstances. I must discuss this with Xia Chuan next time. After pondering for a moment, Xia Hong rose and left the grand hall through the front door, heading north. Unlike the brief commotion in the Great Xia Valley, Jing Valley was a scene of utter chaos. The 5 to 6 li radius of Jing Valley was continuously trembling. Over 30 wooden cabins were all shaking with the ground, releasing a flurry of snow and ice shards sliding down the roofs with crackling noises. Inside a central wooden cabin, hundreds of people huddled together. The bonfire inside had already gone out. Everyone's faces were filled with horror as they occasionally peered out the windows and wooden doors toward the south, their faces crawling with fear. The arrow bamboo forest, a kilometer away to the south, was continuously rumbling as if a massive earthquake was underway. A thick blanket of snow had already covered the entire bamboo forest, enveloped in a vast expanse of snow mist, making visibility extremely low. Yet even so, the people inside the wooden cabin could still see, through the snow mist, the faint but giant silhouettes of beasts charging forward. We're lucky Lord Yue Feng notified us in time. If we had been a little later, we would have been either eaten or trampled to death. Look over there, at least 7 or 8 of them. You can see them clearly from this distance. They must be at least 7 or 8 meters long, all intermediate cold beasts. Gulp, that's just what we see on the edge through the snow mist. Who knows how many more are inside? The bamboo forest is probably full of cold beasts right now. How come there are so many? Judging by the noise, hundreds must have passed by already. The people from Mirror Immortal Camp said this beast tide would last 4 to 5 days. So overall, there must be thousands of them. Where are all these cold beasts headed? There must be some treasure in the arrow bamboo forest, I guess. Ha, you're smart. So what are you thinking of grabbing some treasure? I'd have to be lucky enough to survive this. With such a huge beast tide, I bet no one in the camp except the leader dares to get close. Even the leader might not dare. With so many cold beasts, I estimate there might even be advanced ones among them. On the second floor of the cabin, upon hearing everyone's discussions, Yue Feng turned back to look at Yuan Dao with a grateful expression. He cupped his hands and said, "Thanks to you, Director, tonight. If it weren't for your advance notice, we would have likely lost a lot of people tonight." Yuan Dao waved it off slightly. "Brother Yue, no need to thank me. I had roughly calculated that a beast tide was due. I stayed around here during this period just for this reason." Yue Feng nodded at these words, but his gratitude did not diminish. He also knew that the beast tides in arrow bamboo forest occurred every 4 months, following the maturation of the ice tree. Knowing is one thing, but accurately judging it is another. It's already the 18th of May, and the beast tide still hadn't come. He was just starting to let his guard down, thinking there wouldn't be a beast tide this time. Who would have expected it to arrive tonight? Jing Valley had already become a permanent outpost for Great Xia in the north of Arrow Bamboo Forest. Not only did he station the Mountain River team there, but many other hunting teams and collection teams also rested and stationed there routinely, sometimes staying for several days for convenient mining. The collection teams were the same. The bamboo silk from the Arrow Bamboo Forest was a vital resource that the camp needed to gather regularly. Now, every night, hundreds or even thousands of people in the logging realm were active in the Arrow Bamboo Forest. If it weren't for Yuan Dao accurately predicting the beast tide's arrival and notifying him in advance, allowing him to rapidly send people to spread the notice and get everyone out in time, many would have certainly died tonight. As the person in charge of Jing Valley, he would naturally bear some responsibility. To be honest, Yue Feng's impression of Yuan Dao wasn't too good initially, mainly because he was on good terms with both Li Yun and Li Pingkai. Due to the previous chase incident, he had a poor impression of the people from the Mirror Immortal Camp who had joined them. But today's incident significantly changed Yue Feng's perspective on Yuan Dao. Yuan Dao, unaware of Yue Feng's complicated thoughts, was pondering deeply. I remember the timing used to be accurate, once every 4 months, with a margin of error not exceeding 5 days. This time, it was delayed by more than 10 days. He whispered to himself, knitting his brows tightly. The Mirror Immortal Camp had experienced many beast tides over the years. The ice tree had matured at the beginning of the month, and now it was the 18th. Why had it arrived so late? Truth be told, like Yue Feng, he also suspected there wouldn't be a beast tide this time due to the delay, had it not been for his caution, deciding to stay a few extra days. Otherwise, tonight's events would have proven disastrous. Yuan Dao continued pondering, unable to determine the cause for the delay even after a long while. Yue Feng, the partner beside him, understood even less. He maintained close observation of any movement within the southern bamboo forest, ready to respond to any changes. Besides the two of them, Meng Yi and Han Guang were also present on the second floor. After Xia Hong's encounter with the beehive's 3 individuals, he instructed Yue Feng to station the Mountain River team here while allowing the other 5 teams to move freely. Yuan Dao, feeling uneasy, stayed on with his Dragon Wu team and the Divine Martial team led by Meng Ye. Oh, why is there a little snow mane here? Its body length is barely over a meter. Is it a cub? Did it come along with the beast tide? I've never seen a cold beast cub before. Its meat should be quite tender. The previously silent room was suddenly interrupted by several voices coming from the first floor. Yue Feng, Han Guang, and Meng Yi all paused in their tracks, puzzled, while Yuan Dao's body shook violently upon hearing these discussions. He quickly rushed to the edge of the stairs and looked down below. To coordinate uniformly and avoid people dispersing and alarming the beast tide, Yue Feng had gathered all 400-plus people staying in Jing Valley into this central wooden cabin. Hence, the first floor was now packed with a dense crowd. Even without lighting inside, the 4 individuals standing at the edge of the stairs immediately noticed the beast's silhouette by the cabin door. The beast's shadow, as discussed earlier, had a shoulder height of merely 60 centimeters and a body length of over a meter, small even for a low-level cold beast. The beast's silhouette had a row of spines on its back, and although its face details were unclear, its 2 prominent ivory tusks were evident. With its pitch-black mane, it was identifiable as a miniature snow mane. Is there really a snow mane cub? If anything set this small snow mane apart from previously encountered ones, it would probably be its eyes. Snow mane eyes were typically bloodshot crimson, but this snow mane's eyes were astonishingly blue. Not just blue, but they also possessed a translucent, jade-like quality. It let out 2 grunts, endearingly adorable, causing laughter to erupt from the first-floor crowd. Run, run, everyone, run quickly. Yuan Dao's terrified scream halted the laughter abruptly. Yue Feng and his 3 companions beside him were all shocked in unison. The expression of all 400-plus people on the first floor froze. That's an advanced cold beast, advanced cold beast. Run, run, everyone scatter and flee. Chapter 399. Chapter 194. A tragic scene. I skin Jade bone, Xia Hong's true strength. Is this tiny thing in front of me a high-level cold beast? Not to mention the more than 400 people below. Even Yue Feng, standing beside Yuan Dao, was stunned at the moment. Are you all deaf? Run. Yet Yue Feng was the quickest to react. Realizing that Yuan Dao had no reason to deceive them, Yue Feng swiftly drew the iron core bow from behind, and while knocking an arrow, shouted loudly at the people below once more. The more than 400 people below finally reacted at this moment. Run. Run quickly, scatter. Breaking through windows, climbing over walls. The people on the first floor scattered rapidly, but with over 400 individuals, it wasn't that simple to all escape the wood cabin at once. Huff. The snow mane, no longer than 1 meter, snorted again at this moment. Its crystalline green eyes, as translucent as jade, gently scanned the scattering crowd, a human-like cruel grin appearing on its face. The next moment, it lightly shook its body. Rustling. A rustling sound rang out as the spines, barely dozens of centimeters long on the snow mane's back, shot out from its body surface like steel needles, moving so fast they sparked against the air. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Hundreds of spines burst out like a torrential rain of pear blossoms, illuminating the originally pitch-dark wood cabin with flashes ignited by the spines, creating an eerie yet terrifyingly beautiful scene. Thunk, thunk, and whoosh. After the flashes, countless sounds of spines piercing human flesh echoed. Run quickly, those steel spines are unavoidable. Run quickly. Relentless screams eventually echoed throughout the entire wood cabin. Blood splattered, broken limbs and blood intermixed with the continuous screams, turning what was a refuge into a hell on earth in an instant. The spines shot by the snow mane were incredibly powerful and fast, not stopping at a single hit, but piercing directly through bodies. If the person hit was unlucky enough to have someone in front, they too would be penetrated. Even after piercing through bodies, the spine's force didn't diminish, shooting through the walls and flying outside the wood cabin. Instantly, the walls of the entire cabin were riddled with holes. Among the more than 400 people here tonight, aside from members of the 3 hunting teams and a few earth-digging realm miners, the majority were logging realm personnel from the gathering department. Even the earth-digging realm couldn't resist the spines fired by the snow mane, let alone these frail logging realm individuals. Break through the walls and escape, don't look back. Yuan Dao, his hands never stopping shooting arrows, still managed to remind everyone to break through the walls and escape. But now his voice was filled with panic, even a hint of desperation. From the snow mane shaking its body until now, it had only been about 5 to 6 breaths. In such a short time, at least 100 people were lying on the ground. It's not clear how many are dead for the moment, but the problem is, after the spines shot out from the snow mane's back, they quickly grew back. This new batch of spines looked even sharper and denser than before. What's more deadly is, neither he Yue Feng, Han Guang, nor Meng Yi could affect the snow mane with their iron arrows. Clang, clang. Keep in mind, among the four, except Yue Feng's basic strength was slightly weaker, just over 20,000 pounds, the other three had exceeded the earth-digging realm's limit, with Yuan Dao reaching over 50,000. Even the iron arrows shot by Yuan Dao couldn't scratch its skin, let alone the others from Han Guang and the rest. This 10-stone iron bow made with bamboo silk and Tangjiao tendon, with a pull force of up to 30,000 pounds, can't even pierce its outer skin. Yuan Dao's voice trembled slightly, and in this short time, the four of them had almost run out of iron arrows. Yet the snow mane hadn't even moved its body an inch. Not only did it not move, but the snow mane even raised its head, looking in their direction on the second floor where the four stood. Perhaps it was the bloody scent permeating the wood cabin. The snow mane looked at the four, eyes full of violence, with an extremely evident sense of enjoyment and greed. Rustling. The snow mane shook its body again. But unlike before, this time it clearly shook upwards. Scatter! Yuan Dao shouted sharply, even dropping his bow and arrows to flee quickly backward. Han Guang, Meng Yi, and Yue Feng reacted to his voice, each running in a different direction, scattering swiftly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A wider and more numerous round of spines shot abruptly from the snow mane's back in all directions of the wood cabin. After the first round, less than 10 breaths had passed, and everything happened too quickly. By the time the second round of spines shot out, less than a tenth of the more than 400 people had truly escaped the cabin. In the first round, over 100 had already fallen. With the new round of spines attacking, faces of those in the rear filled instantly with despair. A few even gave up escaping, closing their eyes to await death. This time, neither Yuan Dao nor Yue Feng had the mind or energy to remind others, for they were struggling to save themselves. Bang! Yuan Dao broke through a window with his head, jumping straight out. Looking back and seeing Han Guang and Meng Yi already out on the other side, a happy glint appeared in his eyes, but as he turned to Yue Feng, his pupils tightened. Yue Feng was too slow. Not only was he slow, but his movements were evidently slower than the other three, failing to avoid the spines shot by the snow mane. Both his shoulder and left calf were pierced, and he had already fallen by the windowsill on the west side of the second floor. Chapter 400, Chapter 194, A Tragic Scene, Ice-Skin Jade Bone, Xia Hong's True Strength /2. Whoosh! Save him! Seeing a sharp spike shooting towards Yue Feng's forehead, Yuan Dao didn't hesitate for a moment. With a fierce shout, he turned and rushed back towards Yue Feng. Han Guang and Meng Yi immediately turned around at the call. Yuan Dao had just thrown away his bow, but they hadn't, so they both raised their bows and shot 3 or 4 arrows at that spike. Clang! 2 iron arrows accurately hit that spike. Unfortunately, the power of that spike was just too strong. The 2 iron arrows only slightly altered the direction of the spike. Clang! At the critical moment, a giant broadsword slashed down suddenly. Yuan Dao had arrived. When the broadsword hit the spike, not only was there no joy on his face, but it was full of horror. Boom! In the next second, the broadsword broke, Yuan Dao's hands cracked open from the force, and he was blown backward over 10 meters. The impact force of this spike is at least several times mine. How is this possible? At that moment, Yuan Dao's expression was one of horror. He finally realized what kind of despair the over 400 people below had just encountered. That single, ordinary spike on the snow mane's back had been shot several dozen meters away. He had slashed it at midair, causing the broadsword to break and himself to be blown away. The broadsword in his hand was left by his father, Yuan Hu, after he died. It was a genuine 100-forged weapon, of the same quality as the Yi blade in the hands of head leader Xia Hong, and one of the few remaining 100 forged weapons in Great Xia. PSH. Before Yuan Dao could recover from the shock of the weapon breaking, the sound of flesh being pierced reached him, and he hurriedly looked up at Yue Feng. Yue Feng's right forehead was directly pierced through, with a large chunk of scalp flying off. "Lord Chief, you run, don't mind me." Yue Feng wasn't dead. Although Yuan Dao's sword hadn't cut the spike off, it had altered its direction, preventing it from piercing through Yue Feng's forehead, only shearing off a large chunk of his scalp. Hearing Yue Feng shout, Yuan Dao gritted his teeth but still rushed forward to help him up, and the two quickly ran toward the door. My lord looked downstairs. Yuan Dao staggered, narrowly avoiding the spike behind him. As soon as he jumped out of the window, he heard Han Guang's warning from another side and quickly turned to look. At that moment, both he and Yue Feng beside him were filled with terror. The snow mane's back had grown a layer of fine spikes again, but this time it didn't tremble to release spikes. Instead, it opened its mouth. A long, sharp tongue flew out from its mouth and suddenly split in midair, transforming into 9, wildly lashing around the room like a frenzy of demons. The long tongue was soft when flailed, but upon contact with a human body, it would suddenly become stiff and hard, with terrifying cutting edges shrinking out from the sides. Those on the first floor who hadn't escaped yet were almost killed instantly upon contact. Even if they luckily avoided it once, they'd soon be struck again to death. Some unluckier ones were wrapped around by the long tongue and pulled into the snow mane's mouth before they could even scream. The snow mane's body was just over a meter long, yet in this short time, it had swallowed at least a dozen people without its belly bulging at all, as if nothing had gone in. Huff, huff. Hearing the snow mane make sound again, Yuan Dao had no intention of staying. Even though he knew that nearly 200 people on the first floor hadn't escaped, he didn't have the mind or energy to care anymore. The snow mane hadn't even moved its legs from start to finish. Just by shaking its body twice and opening its mouth, they ended up like this. This is the power of a high-level cold beast. If they didn't run, they would all die here. The fact proved Yuan Dao's thoughts were correct. A long tongue suddenly attacked from behind. The snow mane had long noticed the 4 on the second floor. Realizing they had all escaped outside, it started to attack them. At this moment, Yuan Dao had only half a broadsword in his hand. In panic, he could only turn to block with his sword, despair flashing across his eyes. Even the spike shot from the snow mane's back earlier, he couldn't block, let alone this long tongue. The sharp tip of the long tongue directly pierced through his half-broadsword, aiming straight for his forehead. Although Yuan Dao was retreating with all his might, the long tongue was far too fast and pierced his forehead in an instant, about to pass through his skull. Han Guang, Meng Yi, and Yue Feng, who was the closest to him, all ran towards him frantically, wanting to save him, but with their speed, they couldn't make it in time. SSS. Feeling a sharp pain in his brow, Yuan Dao's expression darkened immensely. His death was imminent. At the critical moment, a slender Yi blade came into view. Yuan Dao's pupils instantly brightened, and his expression became extremely excited. Snap! Retreat quickly! Xia Hong's voice resounded through Jing Valley, and not only Yuan Dao, but all the terrified people inside and outside the hut instantly felt a surge of hope on their faces. The head leader is here. We're saved, we're saved. Wearing black, Xia Hong held his blade with both hands, maintaining a striking posture. The blade lodged against the side of the long tongue in front of Yuan Dao. Xia Hong's eyes glanced at the snow mane on the first floor, his pupils extremely serious. The snap just now was not from the long tongue being cut, but from his Yi blade being snapped. Head leader, this is an advanced snow mane. It can continuously shoot out spikes from its back. Its 9 long tongues can be both soft and hard. They can swallow people, and even 100 forged weapons can't break its defense. Its strength is at least 10 times mine.